Hey you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm not doing too bad today. I'm gonna be real. We're recording at nighttime right now, and I'm excited to go to bed and get something over with because I have to go to the DMV tomorrow morning.
Ooh.
Yeah, not my favorite activity. Not a thing I want to do, but I got to do it.
You have to go there.
I have to. You
can't go to a kiosk.
Nope, not for this.
Ooh.
Yep. It's a good time. So, yeah, that's what I have to look forward to in the morning. So I'm just going to enjoy our chat and then try to get the best sleep I can so I can go in with the right energy.
I also need to I need to renew my car registration this month. But I'm just going to go to a kiosk like I did last year and just, do all that there. And I have to do that in like the next 2 weeks before they start, they put down any like late fees or anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing that's nice is that, because I've had my car since 2020 and I'm finally going to pay it off this year, which is like, oh, it's going to be so nice.
Yeah.
But like the first like 4 or 5 years, the registration was so expensive. And then I looked at it dreading that it was going to be like the same amount. And it was like half. And I'm like, yes.
It just got like just old enough or something that like it goes
apparently
past the threshold.
It's just old enough where it's like, okay, you don't have to pay like this much money to have your car, which I don't know how they determine that stuff. I think it's all stupid. It should just be the same. It should be based off the class of vehicle you have and then a flat rate across the board.
That's taking it up with your local government is pretty much what that is.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, that sounds not great. That sounds terrible. Are you going like 6 a.m. or like?
Not that bad. I'm going at like 9, I think.
Do you have an appointment?
I have an appointment.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna. Okay. Yeah. So that should help alleviate some of the. So I'm also going to a further DMV because it's one that I know generally is a little more like calmer. Like it's not as busy because the DMV that's closest to me, it is wrecked every time I've ever gone. Like it's just even if you have an appointment, you're just like no, too many goddamn people. So, yep, that's the joy in my future. How are you?
I'm just working and more working. As I said that I would be till basically post SGF. So, we're doing this podcast and then I'm going to sleep and then I'm going back to work tomorrow morning. And I am playing something right now. I can't talk about it, but I've basically been hoping that I can play 1 to 2 hours a day.
Yeah, just to make
every
progress.
Day during the week. And so when we do eventually talk about this game, probably not going to have it done, but I'll have like a good chunk of it to talk about. So just, for those listening, keep that in mind. But yeah, so that's kind of all I got going on. And there's a lot of news this week.
There's a lot of news this week. Yeah.
We decided to record this a day later because we knew that the Stranger Than Heaven presentation was happening today.
Yep.
And then before that happened, like at 2:50 p.m. we get a tweet from Nintendo like, "Hey, we're starting a Star Fox Direct in 10 minutes. Here's the link."
Yeah, which I totally missed that message. Mitch on our server pinged me directly, being like, "Hey, just so you know, this is happening in 6 minutes." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, all right,
yeah,
cool. I guess it's a good thing I'm not. I was working on stuff today, but it was like kind of just general. Like I was getting like the next video ready, so it was just like, well, I guess I'm just immediately doing this now because I'm near my camera. Let's go.
Yep.
Bit of a fun surprise.
Yeah, and so very glad we delayed for a single for that day, because it would have been really weird coming back next week. So like, hey, so like right after we finished recording, there was like several huge announcements that you just had to wait a week for us to talk about. But yeah, a lot of news this week, and a pretty fun topic of the show. But before we go through all that, we're gonna go through some housekeeping. If you've been enjoying the show, please go to your podcast service of choice, give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. You can also go to youtube.com/partychat or at partychat JRPG pod. We really appreciate that. We also have a Discord where you can hop in for free, where we can chat and things like that. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. JRPGs, non-JRPGs, sports, all that good stuff. We talk about a little bit of everything in there. So feel free to hop in. We have a description or a link in the description to hop in there. And we also have a YouTube membership / Patreon for $5. You get the weekly episode a day early on regular weeks when big scheduled announcements don't happen during the week, as well as access to our monthly bonus episodes and the Campfire Catalog Book Club podcast that we do. Lastly, go to youtube.com/Kevin Kenson, hit the subscribe button over there. And now we're going to get into the news for this week. We're going to start with Star Fox. I think Star Fox is the thing we're gonna start
for sure with. The big surprise today from Nintendo.
Yeah, because it's just like, hey, do you want to talk about Star Fox first, or do you want to talk about Stranger Than Heaven first?
Those are the two big things for sure.
Yeah.
So as we kind of alluded to earlier, Nintendo just announced a direct out of the blue, and they were like, I think the tweet was literally like, "This is Miyamoto. We're doing a direct in 10 minutes. Please check it out." And yeah, it was a fairly short presentation. It was 15 minutes, but it was all just about this bit of Star Fox news, which is like, as someone who considers himself like a fan of Star Fox and like I've kept up and played, I've played through all the ones that are like standard Star Fox. I never actually got around to beating Adventures because I just didn't care. Sorry, Josh. But as someone who's like a fan, this news was both like kind of exciting and kind of like, okay, we're doing this again. Cool. So we had a leak earlier. We were talking about this, 2 episodes ago, where they had talked about there being like a new classic Star Fox style game coming out. And that wording can mean so many different things. And the way that I had taken it, and I think a few other people did, was like, oh, we're going to get a game where it's like, yeah, they're going to keep things relatively simple, probably have it be more in line with like 64 and Assault, but it's going to be like a new game. And instead, what we're getting is Star Fox 64 remade again. I think it's important to emphasize why this is like a weird thing, because Star Fox 64 itself is kind of lightly a remake. It's the same plot as the original Star Fox, and they just like juiced it up and added things. And then 64 got lightly remade, kind of more so just ported for its 3DS version, 64 3D. And then Star Fox Zero was kind of also lightly a remake because it was the same storyline and events as Star Fox 64, but with like new different missions and like adding different segments because you had like other vehicle types. And now here we are with the simply titled Star Fox game that is a remake of Star Fox 64. Out of the like 9 Star Fox games that exist, 5 of them are some retelling of the first game. And it just feels a little silly.
Yeah, so I want to chime in here a little bit because
Sure.
I've been thinking about this since the announcement as well. So to be clear, with this remake, if you haven't seen it already, they basically have more than fresh coat of painted this game.
Yeah.
They've updated the models, so the models that we've known basically from like the Wii and Wii U era have been completely redone, and they're more they're a lot more animalistic in their designs. So like Falco has actual like bird feet.
Yep.
Fox has a bit more of like a wider face with like a bit more of uh, a bit more just hair, skin, whatever you want to call it, under his chin, a little bit like
Yeah.
chunkier, if that makes sense.
Slippy
Um,
Toad is like extra just frog. Like that's just a
yeah,
frog head.
yeah. Slippy Toad has like that wet layer that frogs have,
Yeah.
um, and it's super divisive. Like
Yeah.
some people hate it, some people love it. I'm kind of in the middle where like I I can appreciate that they're going in a more like animalistic direction, and I think that what we got is like what that would look like in that scenario. In most cases, like obviously we've seen some other like kind of representations of more animalistic versions of those characters, like you could say like with the dolls,
Yeah.
and things like that. But um, I'm pretty indifferent. Like I don't love it, but I don't dislike it either. I do think that like of the four, like I honestly like I'm not crazy about foxes the most, but I also think like I think he looks more like a fox. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And I think that's part of where I would say I probably end up falling in the dislike camp. I'm not like that twisted about it, but if I'm just going to be like taking a stance one way or the other, I'm like, yeah, I don't really love this change. Part of it, I think, is because with the more realistic look, it kind of looks like weird, bad taxidermy. Like it looks like you got a fox and then you're like, I'm going to make him into a man. And it's like, this is a little disturbing. I don't know. I could see this in someone's basement right now. And like I think part of it too, I have to wonder if this started off as like trying to do the old puppets and then that evolved into doing this more like kind of weirdly hyper realistic isn't quite the right term because it's not like we have like, humanoid birds and foxes. But yeah, they definitely take on more like real life aspects of those animals that just is a very clean cut from what I would say the older designs, which were maybe a little bit more cartoony,
Yeah, and I think that regardless of how you feel about the redesigns, um, I think the purpose behind this and just it being just like another Star Fox remake, I think that this is like a soft reboot for the series.
Oh,
I think
100%.
that I think that this is a like, hey, we really want to do something with Star Fox. We're gonna just play it safe and just kind of get people refamiliarized with the IP. And for people that may not have played Star Fox, because even with like the 3D remake and like um, you could say Star Fox Zero for those that play, that had a Wii U.
Yeah.
Um, Star Fox is kind of, you know, I don't know how you feel about this, but I kind of agree with it. Like this kind of mentality where I've seen people say that like the only people that like love Star Fox are the people that grew up with Star Fox, and like anyone that's like really kind of just been exposed to it over the years
Sure.
like can appreciate it, can like be like, okay, I get it, but not really be into Star Fox, if that makes sense. And I'm one
Sure.
of those people, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't really like grow up with Star Fox. Like I know Star Fox from Smash. That was my
Yeah.
exposure to Star Fox. And so I like Star Fox. I love Falco. Again, like Falco's black, everybody. Um, but I think that in general, it's not a super big franchise for Nintendo, and I think most like even Star Fox fans would agree with that.
Yeah, sure.
I
It
just and
is
so
not a Mario game.
yeah,
It's not
oh
Zelda. Yeah.
yeah. I wouldn't even say it's on the same level as a Metroid, but
Sure. Especially at
um
this point. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think that this is a really safe and smart way to reintroduce people on what's going to eventually be their most successful console ever
Yeah.
and get people back or reintroduced or introduced onto the Star Fox train and really do something with this IP in a real way. Um, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. They could be like, "Hey, let's
No,
make a Star Fox game because we're making a movie," and then people will go see the movie. It
Yeah,
could be
no, I
that
mean, look,
simple.
my number one hope is definitely that, like, I'm already resigned to the fact that they're remaking 64 again. Okay, fine, like that's what we're doing. But yeah, my hope with this is that this is like a try to get things up and running again, and if this one does well, then 4 years down the line, whatever, we get a proper like new game with like we're moving the timeline forward in some way or just doing something different than just like here's that story about Andros being the bad guy again. Because it's like, don't get me wrong, I like 64, but I think you just run into problems when you're just rehashing the same thing over and over and over. Especially when there is, I think, such a dedicated love for that particular entry and version of it. Because another thing I think that's weird about this one is, first off, when we say remake, it really is like a one-to-one remake in terms of like a lot of the core stuff. Like they're showing parts from levels and it's like, yep, I remember that exact section. It's that same group of enemies in that exact formation. Like they kept the core game the same. There is some new stuff and we should touch on that really quick, but like the core game and level design is basically identical. Like they really did recreate it that way. And I think part of the problem you run into with this is like, first off, yeah, redesigns for characters. I love redesigns and everything else, by the way. Like the machinery, the look of the environments, the world, space, beautiful.
The
all of that
look
is great.
so sick.
Yeah, no, all that's fantastic. The character models are the only thing where I'm kind of like, huh, okay. But even going beyond that, I think another thing that gets me a little worried is that like Star Fox 64 to me is one of those games that has a very weird like brainworm effect with its voice acting. Like there's just it was like that right era of like we weren't really using like professional voice actors all the time, and there's some lightly weird things. There's like some overly hammed up dialogue sometimes, but it all kind of works. And with that being redone as well, I feel like that's a harder point of comparison because it's like that's just completely redone now, and all that original dialogue is lost. It's like it's easier with visuals, I think, because it's like, okay, sure, maybe there's something about how they handled art direction in the old one you like more, but definitely in terms of just raw graphical power, like this is a shinier game in a lot of ways. Again, character model thing aside. Whereas voice acting, sure, maybe you can talk about how the audio quality is better from the recording equipment we use today, but ultimately that's still a much closer one-to-one comparison. That tech has not changed rapidly. And I feel like that's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. There's obviously some iconic stuff from voice lines and things like that, and the original Star Fox 64, and that's not going to really. That's probably not going to be present in the same way in this remake. But also, yeah, with the voice acting, it's like I kind of we'll see.
Yeah,
right.
That's what. And I don't want to be like down on it immediately. It's just more of like that's going to be a thing. I really need to see how they pull out on it, like how they turn out on it.
That's fair. Yeah. And yeah, and so they have a bunch of quality of life improvements that they're doing where you can like redo missions, you can change like what difficulty you want to do them on, and like depending on how you can choose like again, like correct me if I'm wrong if this is new or if this was in the original,
for sure,
because it's been a minute since I played it, that like there's different paths to the different planets you can go on to get to like the end of the game. And you can game share, which is cool, because there's a multiplayer mode, which like that was actually something I was kind of hoping for in a game like this. I was just like, oh, it'd be so cool if there's like some sort of multiplayer.
Yeah.
And
which they did before, but this is like a different take on it than we had in some of the past ones, because like they did do like a very basic multiplayer in 64 and 3DS, but those were like kind of just straight up dogfights. This one's doing like a 4v4
objective type
deal. Yeah, so I think you can still like attack other ships just to like screw with them, but the way you actually win is like, hey, you're trying to accomplish this goal right now, first team to do it, like you win. So it's more like a point-based situation. I think there were like 3 different maps, they said. I think each map also had different objectives, so like they're kind of like different game modes in of themselves a little bit. That's a nice addition. Like I think it's cool to have just to mess with like the multiplayer options more with that. Especially with the game share like support, like that's a good combo.
Yeah, and then so it's basically like Team Star Fox versus Team Star Wolf, and you get to see all. I don't know if I knew the other animals on Team Star Wolf before, so that was like cool to see for the first time. And I think like also when people saw them specifically, they very much, for the people that weren't jiving with the character redesigns, they're like, oh, now I really hate it. And I don't know particularly why, because there's like a pig, and I
Yep.
thought the pig looked cool. And there's like some sort of reptile.
He's a chameleon.
Chameleon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Leon.
yeah, the chameleon. And what's the last one?
He's monkey. He's
Okay,
like
a monkey.
Andross's cousin or something. Yeah, nephew. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just like, I don't know. I think that I do think that there's something like charming about it. I just feel like that Star Fox should be looking a little bit more suave. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
Sure.
Star Fox has always had like this not this like charm about him, this charisma about him, and like when I look at this Star Fox, I'm like, I don't really see that.
I think a big thing for me on this, and I feel like this is true in a lot of like how you handle depictions of characters and how you add a degree of expressiveness to them. I think a lot of it comes down to the eyes. I think the way they're doing the very realistic, like animal proportion eyes, it's hard to like get certain emotions and ideas across. Because I realized this after we were talking on the server a little bit, and Josh on the server, Antique Arcade, he brought up that like, oh, James is like one of the best looking ones. I'm like, you're right, James is like the best looking one because he has like sunglasses on. I don't see his eyes, and I immediately just get a better vibe like from this design. I really think the eyes are a big part of it for me.
Well, they dropped like the art for each of them after the direct, and I like the Falco one. I thought looks great because that was another thing that like when you saw the only time you saw Falco really standing up, and you saw like a side profile, he was like super hunched over, so people thought that was like his kind of neutral thing.
Yeah.
It's like no, that's not no. And then when you actually got the concept art or whatever, the promotional art for him, he looks great, and I really liked it. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think I'm more positive on it than negative or new. Like I'm just it seems cool, right? Like it's not perfect, but
yeah,
it seems cool to me.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think like the character models are definitely also a shock factor. So I am curious how I'm going to feel about them. Like probably after like properly playing the game, they might grow on me more then.
And
because I also do agree, like the Falco render looks much better than like anything we saw in motion. But if the stuff we saw in motion is what we're going to be seeing regularly in the game, then I don't know how much that is going to change my opinion. You know what I mean?
And here's the thing that also put it into perspective, just Nintendo like wide. I think it's really cool how like with outside of Metroid, unfortunately, and even then, like to a certain extent, kind of, but for each new IP that like really since Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom, they've like introduced like a new art style or an art direction for like all these different franchises.
Sure, like Donkey Kong got a redesign, and like Zelda, we moved away from like the Link's always in the green tunic thing. We gave him like a different fit.
And just like the more kind of like water paint aesthetic of the art design. I don't know the exact, I'm not an artist, so I don't know the right phrase, but that's like what I think of as like this kind of like watercolor.
For sure. Zelda's a little weird because they've done so many art styles over the years too. Like you kind of look at the extremes of like Ocarina of Time and then into Wind Waker and then into Twilight Princess, and like that one's kind of jumped around a little bit. And I feel like the Breath of the Wild look is kind of almost like a mixed midway point between a lot of those, where it's like, okay, we're going to have some of that watercolory look, as you put it, kind of like what we had in Wind Waker, but we're going to keep more still a little cartoony, but more human proportions. We're not doing the giant heads like Wind Waker had.
Yeah, but then even there's Super Mario Bros. Wonder got a art direction update. Like I like how Nintendo has been making these some big, some small changes to kind of make these IP that we've kind of been waiting for a significant. Zelda not so much, but like like 2D Mario, Star Fox, Donkey Kong, we've gotten these like kind of a fresh coat of paint on them to make you like try to make the audiences feel a little bit re-energized about these IP.
Yeah.
outside of just the gameplay. And yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, as you said, it's definitely, I think, a bit of a soft reboot approach too, where like, you know, we're remaking 64 again, but this is also really just more of like, here is a new Star Fox game with a tried and true formula, but a new look. And like, do you guys like this? Do you want more of this? We can maybe make more if you all buy this one. So yeah, again, I have my mixed feelings on the models, but the gameplay itself looks fantastic.
Yeah.
There's that part of me that would want for something new instead, but like, I love 64. I'll play it again. I'll go through it, and they know it. So
yeah, and very cool that you can play it on an N64 controller.
Yes, I did want to bring that up. Yeah, you can. It does support the 64 controller that was made for Switch. So
it just in general, like I just think it's really cool that they're like, hey, we're gonna like re-release these these different controllers we've had throughout our history and just make them usable on Switch with certain games. I think that's neat. Like, and I appreciate that a lot. Like I have it's still in its box, but I still have the N64 controller. Obviously, I'm gonna get the GameCube controller soon. Like, I think that's just really cool. And Nintendo's like, that's the thing with Nintendo's that like they have their issues for sure, but then they do like these really random things that like they don't need to do, but like they do it, and it's something I super appreciate. Like I like more than most things.
No, there's a degree of like fun and whimsy to a lot of the design decisions that Nintendo makes, and sometimes it's eye rolling, and sometimes it's like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and that's just how it's gonna be. Yeah,
and yeah, that's the push and pull of being a Nintendo fan. So, but yeah, very excited for that, and that's dropping on June 25th. So about 6 weeks from now. Very cool. Yep. Stranger Than Heaven got a 30-minute presentation, and we learned a lot. They started off with a trailer, and I just want to say from the jump that this is one of the best video game trailers I've seen in years.
Oh, it brought the energy.
I absolutely loved it. Like I was just like, I got chills watching that shit. I was like, this is going to be an adventure. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, yes. Like it did such a good job at like showing you so much without telling you anything. Without like I didn't feel like I got anything spoiled from me, but I felt like that I got a good glimpse at like everything the game is going to have offered to me from a story standpoint.
Yeah,
and it just, that's what I wanted. Like I'm just like, yes, finally.
Matched with an awesome original song for it as well. Got some Snoop Dogg in the mix on there. I think Otto was on that track as well. What a like over the top, just like here's some celebrity talent we're bringing to crossover on this one, which is interesting too because there is like a thematic thing. We'll dive into it a bit here, but like there's a thematic element to what they're doing with like the character in this one and how music kind of plays a role in it. And so it is interesting how the celebrity aspect is leaning harder on musical talent this time.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that at the very least they are trying to plant into our brains about this story is that this is a very loose prequel to the Yakuza series, where it's basically like seemingly the person that you're playing as, and this is all in the trailer, guys. I'm not spoiling. Yeah. This is all obvious like information.
They spelled this out very hard in this presentation. Yeah.
That like the main character you're playing as is the person that founds the Tojo clan in Kamurocho eventually, and so that that's interesting. If I don't know if that's like supposed to be a redirect for later, because I've already seen some really crazy cool theories about like, oh, this is the guy that Kazuma kills.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then and he's Kiryu's father.
That feels more reachy to me, but that is okay.
But it's plausible.
It's plausible. Yeah.
And that's the thing that's like really, I was just like, oh my god, we're already theory crafting in such a huge way. But anyway, so basically the premise of this game, the loose premise of this game, is that the main character, his name is Makoto Daito, and he is a biracial, half Japanese, half white kid from San Francisco. His dad dies unexpectedly, leaving it to just be him and his mother. And then eventually his mom dies as well. So he's basically left all alone, and he has like nothing going for him. Again, he's a young kid. I don't know exactly what his age is when he at this point in his life, but he's a kid.
Definitely looks like a young teenager by that point.
Yeah. And he ends up deciding to sneak onto a boat that's going to take him to Japan. And then eventually, like he's caught, he's found out, and the person that owns the ship is Snoop Dogg, Snoop D-O-double-G.
Snoop Dogg going by the name Orpheus.
Yeah, and his name,
by the way.
Yeah, and his name is Orpheus. And he's voiced by Snoop Dogg and everything. Yep. Like it's not just like visual. It's just nope. This is Snoop Dogg.
Yep.
And to be clear, Snoop Dogg is a good actor. Like if you've watched Baby Boy, you know what I'm talking about. Like Snoop Dogg can act. And then eventually Snoop Dogg puts you, or not you, but Daito in this jail cell where there's another kid, and this kid's name is Yu. What's his last name?
Shinjo.
Yu Shinjo, and he's just like you. He's a young kid, about basically the same age as you, and you guys eventually end up in Japan. And then once you guys get off the boat, you go your separate ways, and then you kind of like just meet up at a later point in each other's lives. And you learn that Yu has found a lot of success being a foreigner coming to Japan, where he's like all dressed up. He seems to be like working for a family, or he's like seems to like have done well for himself in some manner. And then like Makoto or Daito has more or less kind of been on the street. He eventually like joins the Yakuza, and it'll eventually lead to a point. It seems like a big part of the game takes place in Osaka, because it starts in Fukuoka. That's like where they like start off in Japan, and like as the game progresses, it goes more east and eventually ends up to Kamurocho. But it seems like a big part of this game takes place specifically in Osaka. Did you get that vibe as well?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like, at least from what we saw, that like there were kind of like the bigger climactic moments maybe happening there. That might just be kind of the balance of what was shown versus how the final game will turn out. So we'll kind of see how that balance goes there. But that definitely seemed like a pretty significant year based on what scenes we were seeing more often during this presentation.
Yeah. And eventually they meet again in Osaka, and they end up deciding to work together and become showmen. Not like in the sense of performers, but they're the people that are like finding the talent, putting the shows together, and basically they're producers / managers, if that makes sense.
One of my favorite little allusions to this they talked about during the presentation is how, as Makoto, you'll like learn and incorporate sounds you experience and like learn how to like apply that to music in some way. And so like some of them were things like, oh yeah, like someone's sweeping and the rhythm of the sweeping, like here's how that, and then others were like, oh, when this enemy comes at you with a hammer and it gets stuck in something and he's trying to rip it out, that's also a sound you can learn. I was like, oh, interesting timing. There's music in everything. It's all around us.
Yes, music plays a huge part into this game, which I'm really excited about because it's very jazz heavy. And there's something else I want to talk about, but once I finish the this kind of story elements that we learned, we'll get to that. But so there's basically like the main kind of mini game is like you have like 6 different slots on stage, and you're basically like, oh, I want the singer here, I want the bass player here, I want the trumpet player here, like that type of thing. So I'm really curious about that as someone with a musical background. That seems super interesting to me, and just like the way that RGG, whatever they put into those mini games, man, they're a different breed. And so and then eventually you end up in Kamurocho, and that's kind of like the soft pitch of the story elements. One of the things that I think is going to be very interesting to see whether or not they do it, and if they do it, to what degree, is the kind of the significant events that happen in Japan during certain times, right? Like World War II, right? The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, how is that going to play a real factor into the story, and like the Western influence that hit Japan, like in certain points during that time? What's that going to be about? I'm not like, those are the things that I'm really like interested in. It's just like how much they're going to really play with like those significant events and those cultural, not like shifts, right? But like those cultural influences that happen through a lot of what would be Daito's adult life. Have you like, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was trying to actually double check something really quick because I was wanting to get the exact year breakdown for the different eras because it's over 50 years, but I don't think it's an even like 10, 10, 10, 10.
No.
Yeah, there's jumps. And so as soon as you brought that up, I was like, okay, wait, what were the exact years that we're working with here? Okay, here it is. So it's 1915, 1929, 1943, which would have been during the war, but also before the bombings happened.
Yes.
And then 1951, which is well after. So yeah, it might be a thing that's going to come up in terms of like, how life's going and where he's ended up. I could absolutely see there being like a post-war element to like the 1951 time segment. But yeah, that's certainly an interesting thing to think about because that thought did not occur to me. I was like, oh right, this is happening like right in the middle of when World War II starts happening. That's yeah, because that would primarily be relevant for when you're in Osaka in 43.
Yeah, and just the idea of having Americans or just non-Japanese people in Japan during that time as well is just like a very big question mark, because obviously like people in just like general citizens, I'm not trying to make the assumption that general citizens are going to reflect the Japanese government during that time, but I am curious about the the social culture because of during that time in Japan. So
yeah, and yeah, I mean, the main character being someone who originally comes from America, like, is absolutely a thing that could play a role in kind of why he ends up being kind of an outcast a bit. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. And then they talk about combat a bit. So combat is like they're basically introducing a new system where you use the left bumper and trigger to do things with the left side of your body, and then right bumper and right trigger for the right side of your body. And I'm very curious as to how that combat is all going to come together. There's different weapons that you can buy, purchase, upgrade, like a hammer. You can do like charge attacks with or without weapons, which I think is cool. As I've said before on this on the pod several times, like I'm not super crazy. I was never super crazy about Yakuza's combat outside of like a Dragon and Infinite Wealth. Like I think it got like decent with like Yakuza 4 and Yakuza 6.
Not even like Judgment, because Judgment's so good.
I was going to say, and then the Judgment games. I think the Judgment games were like the best example of that. But even then, like I was just like, there's something that's like it's just like a little bit too loose. Like I feel it's one of those games where like when it comes to the combat, I feel like when like I'm trying to swing on someone, I'm just swinging and I'm hoping that it connects. You know what I mean? And I think that this one feels a bit more focused, a bit more locked on than previous RGG titles. And so that has me optimistic. That has me excited because it does, and just in general from the presentation, it looked like meatier. You know what I mean? It felt like more
a weightier combat. Yeah,
weightier combat. Yeah. So that looks cool. Any thoughts on the combat?
I mean, my first thought was just like, man, not even Yakuza can escape wanting to try and do Dark Souls controls at some point by doing the shoulders as your attacks, then yeah, mapping it to each limb. It sounds a little awkward to me if I'm being honest, but just because it sounds that way doesn't mean that's how it'll actually handle. The stuff we saw looked really good, and so I'm hopeful that like I enjoyed that combat. It sounds like they're trying to add a bit more of a technicality to like how it controls versus just being like smash square, get it going. So like maybe that's gonna end up being like a really cool like immersive experience, but we'll just see, because I'm even thinking of things of just like alternating arm swings, right? Like we're seeing some combos where you're swinging with both arms, so it's like, so are you alternating R1 L1 right now? Like what does that actually feel? What are you actually inputting in your controller right now to make these things happen on screen? And is that going to feel good or not? So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, and also one thing that's worth mentioning is that one of the main characters, her name is Susie. She's a singer. She seems to be like probably the love interest of this game, or she's like the main female character of this game at the very least. She's being portrayed by Tori Kelly, who is a very honestly should be more popular than she is in general singer. Like she is a very talented singer. And I don't think she did like any of the face capture stuff, but she does do the acting and the voice work, which that is more so like, I don't know if that's in your bag, Tori. I don't know if you can pull that out, because that's the thing in general that I'm really conflicted on, where it's like I want to play in Japanese, but I want to hear Snoop
Yeah, and it's like that's one thing that's been a bit of a headache for me with like some of the games that mess with this like multi-language plot line, is that they don't give you the option to like have multi-language happen. Like Infinite Wealth, right? It's like, why can't we have segments that English speakers are just speaking English and Japanese speakers are speaking Japanese, and we'll go with it? They instead go for this weird thing which is like, no, whole games in Japanese or whole games in English. We're just going to skip over whether or not there's like weird translation issues. Because even in Infinite Wealth, there's like a couple moments where someone will speak in English if you're using the Japanese track, and it's a little awkward. Because then there's other times where it's just like, yeah, everyone else is just speaking Japanese all the time. Don't worry about it. And I'm curious how that's going to work for this one too. Because I agree. I would love if like those opening segments leaving America, you have Snoop Dogg voicing his character, and like, there we go. That's what you're getting. But you still get a transition into the Japanese track once you're like in Japan. I enjoy when you're able to like, I don't care if it's two different languages at some point. Like if it makes sense within the story, I prefer that. And so I do wish that. But I'm probably playing this game in Japanese. Yeah, I'm not getting that. It's okay because I might not get Snoop Dogg, but I'm gonna get Otto, and so it's worth it.
yeah, but I honestly think I don't have like the whole calendar in mind right now of this year, but as of right now, I think this is my most anticipated game that isn't Trails. I am just,
it's looking pretty good. I will say,
so excited.
Yeah, like, as you know, I haven't been shy talking about my general feelings on RPG the last few years. I have my problems with what they chose to do with Kiwami 3.
Agreed.
Even though it was kind of fun, I have my issues with just like Pirate Yakuza as a game, as well as how they handled Majima. And while I love the mechanics, Infinite Wealth absolutely does some story beat stuff that I'm just like,
Buzz, dude. Oh.
Yeah, and like, there's just that. All that said, this is probably the most excited I've been for like a post-Nagoshi game. Is this one, like, especially because I think it doesn't have to carry the baggage as much of like trying to maintain certain character portrayals. We're getting fresh cast, different kind of concept, doing this over the years kind of history thing. The music focus is really interesting. I really enjoy a lot of what we saw in this presentation, and it makes me I'm much more optimistic about this game than I've been about probably any other RPG project the last like 3 years. So
I genuinely think that, well, here's the thing that sucks about this, which we'll talk about, which I'll bring up right now. So this game is set for sometime this winter.
Yeah.
So winter could be December, it could be January, like it could be February. And that sucks because I genuinely think that if this came out around like the holiday time, before like Game of the Year stuff was being considered, this is looking like a Game of the Year contender game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I just think that, and especially now that RGG has been much more on the map since the release of Like a Dragon, I just think that that's like a real missed opportunity, because like no one's gonna, by the end of 2027, no one's gonna be like, oh, remember Stranger Than Heaven? That's
Yeah, no,
gotta be.
it's the classic fallacy of like technically those are on the board, but a lot of people don't think to. It's like how what was it? Sonic 3 wasn't up for best video game adaptation because it came out like the December previous.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did that not even, like, I understand maybe not winning, but it's like, did you see what else came out in that same year? That didn't get nominated at least?
Yeah.
Like,
no, it should have won. It should have won. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it should have won, yes. But it wasn't even nominated because, yeah, it's absolutely, unconscious, whatever. Like, you're just not thinking about it the same way because it doesn't, like, I'm sure some people do because it's all, it's like a board-based type thing. They reach out to multiple people and they have their submissions. And it's just a thing where it's like, I'm thinking best games this year. And that immediately rules out, like, a couple people are going to remember, not enough.
Yep. Totally agree. I will say another thing that I do appreciate is that this is like completely new voice cast. Like, they're not like trying to take from people that were in previous Yakuza games to be in like these maybe smaller roles. It's just like, nope, we're doing a whole new voice cast. Like,
yeah,
that's very exciting.
I do wonder if we'll get like just a random cameo or something, just as like a, oh wait, was that Kuroda's voice just there?
Yeah,
but yeah, they're not trying to like, they're not pushing a supporting character that happens to be voiced by one of the core cast.
Yeah, Kuroda or Ichiban's VA. Mm-hmm. I forgot his name. So, but cool. We got an update on Final Fantasy Remake Part 3 from director Hamaguchi, saying basically more, didn't flat say it, but like you can kind of get the gist from what he's saying, that the game is kind of in the polish phase and we're getting and they're getting close to like kind of wrapping things up in a real way on the game, saying that he's did over 40 full playthroughs of the game, which is crazy. He said, quote, "We're very excited about how the game is currently progressing. I have already completed over 40 full playthroughs. I can't wait for as many people as possible to experience the game for themselves, and myself and the team are working hard to ensure we can create an unforgettable gameplay experience." And then he also said in a different interview regarding the polishing phase that, quote, "However, as previously mentioned, development is progressing on schedule. We are carefully fine-tuning the game right up to the very end to ensure it is delivered in a form befitting the conclusion of the trilogy, so we hope you can look forward to it. I usually go into the office to work, but since many of our staff work remotely, I have been having a lot more online meetings lately. As a result, it's not uncommon for me to spend almost the entire day at my desk. However, online meetings often run right up to the very last minute. If I have a face-to-face meeting scheduled right after that, I often find myself running through the office to get to the next room. The development team has even commented, lately, we've been seeing you running around a lot, Hamaguchi-san. Since I hadn't really noticed it myself, I couldn't help but laugh a little." So yeah, it seems like things are really wrapping up, and we're seeing this at SGF, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly...
we're getting this at SGF, right?
I mean, that's certainly a thing I've been seeing a lot of field speculation for since this. Yeah, I've seen all the people like, oh, we're absolutely getting this at SGF, and we're getting, probably not a date, but like a window.
This is coming out spring next year.
Yeah, that's
it's coming out like March, April, like something like that.
If they're at this phase, I'd be very surprised for them to not, like, the only other place they would maybe reveal it is Game Awards, and that just doesn't feel like the right move.
They would not wait that long. Yeah. Absolutely not. And the fact that, because he also mentioned briefly that the reason why they're releasing Rebirth so quickly after Remake is because they don't want there to be a large gap for them to wait on the game, on the next game, because like whatever part 3 is, it's coming to Switch too, and so
Sure.
it's just like it,
yeah,
it
they're
may
going
still,
multi-plat with that as quickly as possible.
yeah. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if they're gonna do it like if PS5 has the exclusive for that one, but at the very least, like they're gonna get it out as soon as possible for all the other platforms.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I think Square is going to have a big year at SGF this year. Like not in the sense of what they're going to have to be playable, but or anything like that, because we don't know anything about that. To be clear, but I think that again, there's just like some stuff that we're waiting for that it just feels like it's time, right? Like show us FF Part 3, show us Kingdom Hearts 4, like I don't think it would happen at like a TGA thing or like a Jeff Keighley thing, but like Dragon Quest 12, like there's a lot of big things that we're waiting on, and this seems to be like this is the most proof of like, hey, this is coming out soon. So
yeah,
I'm really excited to finally see what the name is going to be. I really hope it's still I really hope it's Requiem, even despite the Resident Evil title, because that's what my bet has been from the beginning. So, but it's also like people said, like Return.
I was seeing that go around recently too. Yeah.
But we'll see. Any thoughts on that outside of that?
No, I mean I agree with the idea that like we're probably seeing this soon at this rate. Yeah, I feel like those are the kind of statements you're not going to make when it's like, by the way, the game's coming out in 19 months or something. It's like, no, it's going to be a little sooner than that, I think. So, yeah, I feel like good chance we're going to see it. Never going to say 100%, but the energy's out there.
Now, this is a little bit of a misdirect that I'm leading here with, but there's been a new update for Super Mario Galaxy 2 on the Switch. And the update came out on April 29th. And basically what it includes is a new storybook has been added to a new story has been added to the storybook. Once final chapter is available in the storybook, you can read the new story by clearing any galaxy and earning a power star. Now, I don't know what that new story is in the storybook, but what I will say is that I think this is making me think that the next 3D Mario game is Galaxy 3.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense.
I forget if it was you who I saw say this, or if I saw someone else doing a similar, like trying to draw that kind of point of comparison. Sure, I could see a bait like that. It'd be interesting because Nintendo has not really revisited like a sub name like that before, which is not to say that they never could, right? Like, So what if it hasn't been done before? But it would be interesting if they did that then, because yeah, that certainly opens kind of a new door of like, do we revisit other ones at some point? Is there some kind of like Sunshine 2 out there somewhere in the future?
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, especially given the fact that they leaned into Galaxy for the theming of the most recent movie.
Yep.
And they do this re-release port of 1 and 2, and they're adding stuff to it. Signs certainly point to Nintendo likes that name branding right now, and they're using it and they're leaning into it. I'm sure there's some kind of market research where it's like, hey, what's your favorite 3D Mario? And depending on when they gave it out, the Galaxy was probably a name that popped up pretty heavily.
Yeah, I think most people would say 64 or one of the Galaxy games.
I mean, you say that, but I see so many polls in recent ones tilt Odyssey, which is weird to me.
And I don't think that's correct.
I'm just saying what I see other people are putting out there. That's all.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, I could totally see a bunch of people say Odyssey, but normally when I see people talk about Mario, I really see like 64 and Galaxy.
64 from the sickos, certainly. Like a lot of the old school Mario fans who are like leaning 3D, like they're gonna say 64. I don't agree with them either, but I understand that one a little more. As long as we can all agree it's not Sunshine. Anyways.
Well, I mean it's not. It's 3D World, but I do love Sunshine. Mina the Hollower officially has a release date
It's
of
happening.
May 29th.
It's
It's
happening.
going it's going to release on PS5, Xbox Series console, Switch 2, Switch, and PC via Steam, GOG, and Humble Store for $19.99.
Aggressive price point.
Yes. Yep. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, because I think you know, I think there was certainly some speculation about how much this game was going to cost, because you can kind of go off of like what stuff was being kickstarted for, but that was also how many years ago, and like plans change, and you know, especially the way the gaming industry is. I didn't think 20 was like an impossibility or anything like that, but I certainly, you know, before finding out the price for sure, I thought this was going to be between like 20 and 40 at the absolute highest, but I like 20 to 30 was really kind of where I was thinking it could land. 30 would have been my like if you just wanted me to give a number, I would have said 30. So 20 feels surprising to me in an aggressive way. Like it's definitely trying to rely on like, I think there is a mental thing to like $20 just feels like so much more affordable than 25 or 30, like not just in the literal sense that it's a lower number, but there's like a kind of mental cutoff, I think, once you go above $20. And I think they're trying to lean on that, similar to what Silksong did, where it's like, you know, this is going to make things like multiple purchases easier. If someone is kind of a double dipper, you know, you buy a game digitally and then you rebuy it physical when it comes out later. Maybe people get it on multiple platforms, or just getting people who would maybe not have bought into the game at all commit at that $20 to be like, all right, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted on it, because like, again, I got to play like a final build of the game. I didn't play the full game, but
yeah. It was like the opening or whatever.
But what I'll say is that this game seems to have a lot of content, like a lot of content. And to me, I was thinking like, oh, this is I don't think there's an issue to pay $40 for this game at all, based off of what I was shown. And I think that, you know, when I saw $20, I'm like, okay, they're going the kind of Silksong route, and like, but the thing is like, there's a few factors go into play here. Is that one, like, while we're super excited for Mina the Hollower, of course, I don't think the level of anticipation for that game meets like Silksong, right?
Sure.
Silksong, they a big, not a big part, but a portion, at least a notable portion of why they sold it for $20 was because they didn't really need the money, right? They got like so much money from Hollow Knight that they didn't really need the money from Silksong, so they sold what they thought would be like fine, right? And it basically kind of served as like a victory lap for them, even though the game took so long to make. Like, that's basically what this game is.
Yeah, especially because Silksong was like supposed to just be an expansion. Like, it was a stretch goal, a Kickstarter, and they ended up turning into a whole ass other game.
Exactly. And Mina the Hollower and Yacht Club are on the opposite side of the spectrum, where this is make or break. This is, if this game does not perform the way that it needs to, Yacht Club games may shut down, which is such a crazy thought, right? Considering how much they've done for the indie space, how much of a behemoth Shovel Knight is. Like, that's crazy. And what I do know is that, like, you know, initially this was going to be like more of a side type project for them, right?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're like, okay, this is all we're really doing right now in a real way. And so that's probably a part as to why like things got to where they were at this point. I don't know for certain. I'm pure speculation. But like, but also that being said, like, I think this game's going to sell super well.
Yeah.
I'm also just like, $20, like, I think it really just depends on how successful the word of mouth
No, and
happens.
I'm sure this is a thing they agonized on as well. It's no mistake that we only found out the price right now with the locked-in release date, right? Like,
Yeah.
Less than a month away from release. It's not like this is releasing 4 months from now. Like, it's this month, and we just got the pricing. So I'm sure this is a thing that they were kind of weighing in on as well. Because, like, I agree with you. I think in terms of like raw content, and certainly looking at like the time put into this game, how long it's been in development, and what looks to be the full scope of it, like, $30 to $40 doesn't really feel that unrealistic to me. But there is absolutely that element of like, also compared to Silksong has the benefit of being like a direct sequel follow-up to Hollow Knight, which is very popular. And I absolutely love Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight's incredible. Shovel Knight has its fandom. Mina the Hollower is not Shovel Knight. It's the same devs, and it's, we're getting a lot of a similar spirit and energy in terms of like trying to capture like an old school style game and like putting their own spin on it and adding some modern aspects to it. But it's ultimately a new IP, different type of game. And that ultimately means you are going to lose some audience in that transfer. There's going to be some people who are just like, I'm not looking at that. And so, I think that $20 was definitely coming from a place of like, just try to get that raw number up as much as you can. Anyone who might have any kind of hesitation, this is going to help wipe some of that away and just like, cool, grab it.
Yeah. And I think you do make a good point that like, it being $20 instead of 40 is like, if you get it $20, then you hear a friend being like, oh man, I really want to get this game, but I don't really have the money for it right now. Like, gifting your friend $20 is much easier than gifting your friend $40. And so I do see that perspective as well.
Yeah. And also just the indie folks who, are tempted to double dip. I know some folks who are like, oh, I'm not going to grab it at launch. I'm waiting for the physical to drop. 20 is absolutely a number where those kind of people will be like, no, I'm playing it right now. I'll grab a physical later. It's cool.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like, I'm like, assuming I don't get a code, I would totally just be like, all right, I'll buy this on Switch 2 and then I'll get the physical when the physical comes out. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Totally cool with that. Yeah, so in general, like, this game to me, I think is definitely gonna be on my top 10, maybe be my top 5 by the end of the year, honestly. And if you and admittedly, I'm not really one of these people, but like, this really does give some Souls-like vibes to me, like just from like a more obviously 2D space.
Yeah. Bloodborne was absolutely an influence.
If you do like Souls-likes, I think you will like Mina the Hollower. It's not as like difficult and challenging, but like it does give you that same kind of vibe, I guess is the best way to explain it. So yeah, very excited to play that. We got some quickies for this week. We got a couple more I think that we can just talk about in general. The Legend of Heroes, Trails to Zero and Trails to Azure are getting PS5 and Switch 2 versions coming later this fall. There will be a physical release for both. Unfortunately, the Switch 2 version is a game key card, and they are going to include both games on a single purchase package. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Similar to the Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4 that came out a few years ago for PS5, if you're familiar with that. The general like deluxe edition of sorts is going to come with what seems to be like some sort of like postcard, as well as like these trading card type things that come with that's like there's one for each of the members of the special support section, as well as Kia, who's one of the main characters in the series as well. So definitely picking up my PS5 copy. I'm very curious because they did do the reprint on VGP.
Yeah.
And now
yeah, they did.
And now I'm curious if the PS5 version is going to be on par with the Switch version, or if it's just going to be an up-res version of the PS4 version. Because like notoriously, if you don't know, they had a team work specifically on making the Switch version better, where like the Switch version is kind of like a remaster, while the PS4 version is more of just like a general port of the the general PSP or PC release that came out in Japan. And so with this PS5 version, I'm kind of curious if that is if it's the remaster or if it's just the PS4 version on PS5. But
Yeah.
there are like notable updates that came with this. There's like so it's like 4K resolution, 120 frames per second, and then you can also use the Switch the mouse controls on Switch 2, which is very cool. Kevin, you were saying?
Oh no, just so the reason for my slightly salty voice earlier is because I picked up those VGB reprints, being like, okay, I'm gonna play these finally after like second chapter and stuff, and then I should have known this was a possibility. I will say,
I didn't expect it. If it makes you feel better,
sure, yeah. I will say, if the PS5 version ends up just being like the PS4 one with some upresing, I'm probably cool sticking with Switch then. If this does end up being like, if PS5 ends up being like a new like definitive version though, especially if it's in a single pack, I'm gonna be a little tempted. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Especially because I'm playing the rest of this franchise on PlayStation, so it's like it was already a little weird for me that I was picking up Zero and Azure on Switch, and it's like I could just have it all on PlayStation at this point because of that.
Cool. Yeah, that's the thing that was kind of frustrating for me. Well, so thankfully I played the Crossbell games. Like I bought a legal copy on like some Chinese website, and then I used the GeoFront English patch to be able to play it in English on PC. But then I pre-ordered the PS4 versions because of the Steelbooks. I'm like, I want all my Steelbooks to reflect PlayStation because that's what I've been going with. And then like when I learned that the Switch versions is technically the better version, I'm like, well, when I replay these games, inevitably I want them to be on Switch. So I still need to pick up that reprint myself. But yeah, I am curious if they're going to release a collector's edition for it, because they did that with Trails 3 and 4, where it was basically, it didn't come with a steelbook, but it came with like everything else from or like it was kind of like a mixture of like the 3 and 4 collector's editions. That's like the best way I can explain it. So we'll see. I just checked the website. There's nothing up right now, but maybe in the future. Kevin, it looks like the next Tales of Remaster is going to be Tales of Eternia. It was just recently rated on the PEGI ratings board. So, how we feeling about that?
I mean, the coolest thing about this is that opens the floodgates for older tales. Eternia is cool. It's not one of my favorites, but like it is a neat one. There's some interesting things it does plot wise, differing from some of the others. But the fact that that's happening at all immediately puts so many other games on the table now, where it's like, okay, so like maybe we can get another update on Fantasia. Maybe we do get Tales of Destiny re-released for modern systems. Maybe that even opens the door for like Destiny 2 to finally make its way over to the US. Technically, we did get a game called Destiny 2, but that was Eternia. They just localized it that way. So yeah, Eternia specifically, like, cool choice. Like I'm happy that's happening in general. Probably not my first pick from that era, but the fact that it's happening at all is like, okay, cool. That door is now open.
I'm kind of surprised that it happened before Abyss, because that's the one that's been teased. That's the last one that has been teased for a few times.
Yeah.
That we still haven't seen anything of. So that's the one where I'm like, huh, okay. But admittedly, I prefer this. I prefer these games that like we don't have like remotely accessible to us. Like I have Tales of Abyss on 3DS. Like I can play it that way. Like obviously I do want it to come eventually, but if it's like Abyss or Destiny or Eternia or like these older like pre PS3 era Tales of games, give me those.
Yeah.
So and on top of that, Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition has also been rated in Taiwan for the Switch 2. So it looks like we're gonna get a Switch 2 version of this. Please let there be an upgrade path. You motherfuckers.
Square's generally been better about that for games that already came out before. Like when it's simultaneous release, they haven't really been giving upgrade paths as much.
Mm-hmm.
But like when the Switch 2 first came out, we first started getting a couple re-releases. We were getting upgrade paths. Like we got that for the Romancing Saga 2 remake. I think we got an upgrade path for what was the other one? There were a couple. Did Tactics have an upgrade path?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Well, no, it didn't have an upgrade. It didn't have an. Yeah, it had a free update.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't like a true Switch 2 native version, but it got like a Switch like update or whatever. That yeah.
Yes, that was like meant for Switch 2.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like there's a good chance we could get one for this one. I think Square's better about that when it's like this game has been out and we're just putting it on a new place. And then it's the simultaneous launches where they're like, nah, buy the one you want. Choose wisely.
Well, here's the thing though. They didn't do that for Dragon Quest 3, remember? They were like, oh yeah, this is coming to Switch 2, but there's no upgrade path. You just have to buy it separately.
Yeah, and that one was like, you didn't even have the ability to bring anything over. It was just like, fresh start. Here you go.
Yep.
That's true. That is true.
Yep. And that's why I'm worried about this.
Yeah.
Maybe Square Enix will be nice and send us codes so we don't have to worry about that. But like, because one, if this does get a physical release, it's going to be a game key card.
Yeah. Unless something massively changes behind the scenes. Yeah.
So I'm just like, because I have it physical on Xbox. I have the physical on Switch. And so like I was kind of in the headspace that like I was going to play the 3D version of it on Xbox and then play the 2D version of it on Switch and then go that route. But like if there's a Switch 2 version, I would definitely be interested in checking it out. And like what that looks like visually with the with all the updates and upgrades. All right, now we're in the quickies. We're finally here. It's already been almost an hour and a half.
Yep. Busy news. Well, the problem is it was not just a lot of news, but it was a lot of significant stories we wanted to go more in depth on. So, anyways, get to the quickies, and then we'll get to our topic.
We got the PlayStation Plus monthly games for May. We have EA Sports FC 26. We have Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, and we have Nine Souls. I've heard good things about Wu Chang and Nine Souls.
Nine Souls is really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 2D Sekiro kind of.
Yes, that's one of the most succinct ways to really put it. Like, there's a lot it does differently, like tone and art direction wise and storytelling wise, but in terms of just being like, hey, do you like parries and getting really angry at bosses? Here you go. I also heard the story's really good. It is too.
So there's now a demo for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for Xbox Series consoles, Switch 2, and PC via the Microsoft Store. All the save data from the demo will be carried over to the full game when it launches. Now we got a bunch of fighting game announcements because EVO Japan was this past weekend. Melty Blood Twi Lumina has been announced for PS5, Switch 2, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, coming out sometime in early 2027. So for the Melty Blood sickos out there, we're back. SNK has announced its next DLC character, Mr. Karate, from Art of Fighting, coming out in May. Marvel Token Fighting Souls has announced Hulk and Black Panther, specifically Shuri Black Panther, as new fighters for the game. Tekken 8 is getting Kunimitsu, which I believe is that from the the Capcom game? I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
This is a character that was. She might have actually technically been introduced earlier, but she was playable in 7 as a major character, and they're bringing her back for 8. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Kunimitsu is coming May 27th for Season 3 Character Pass owners, and then June 1st for everyone. Under Night in Birth 2, Celeste DLC character Zohar has been announced, coming out later this summer. Mai and Kula from SNK, like being Fatal Fury and
King of
King of
Fighters.
Fighters.
Just
King
straight
of
up King of Fighters.
Oh,
yeah.
geez. Is Mai from King of Fighters?
I mean, technically, so King of Fighters is basically King of Fighters is technically a crossover game. It's all of SNK's other fighting games, and then original characters thrown in on top of that.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so Mai originally was Fatal Fury, but has also been in King of Fighters.
No, Mai was Samurai Showdown, Sam Show, right?
No, Mai was Fatal Fury.
Oh, I think Mai was also in the Sam Show game.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay,
but she originated from Fatal Fury, and then was in King of Fighters, and then Kula is originally straight up King of Fighters. That is where she came from.
Okay. They're coming to Dead or Alive 6 Last Round as DLC on June 25th. Pretty crazy that they're still getting DLC characters, considering we know that the next Dead or Alive is coming soon. And that's it for news for this week. Now we're going to get into what we've been playing. Kevin, you been playing anything?
Nothing I can talk about.
Same here. All right.
Moving on.
We'll have to save that for next time. Now we're going to get into our topic of the show for this week. I thought it would be a good idea to talk about some divisive JRPGs. Some, the games that either people love them or they hate them, and there's really no in between. And I just think that would be a really fun conversation. I think that there's obviously a few that I've talked about on the podcast, and then I think that there's just in general, there's some that we haven't really gone super in depth on that we might have talked about before on the pod that we could hop in and talk about. Kevin, do you have one that you want to start off with?
Oh man, so many possibilities. I think I think one thing that's important to talk about just in general with divisive RPGs, and this isn't true for all of them, but it's true for a lot of them. Oftentimes, the most divisive ones tend to be the result of like, I don't think this is what this series should be. When we were talking about what we were going to talk, like, what games to do during this, it kind of jokingly came up that we're going to have like 4 or 5 different Final Fantasies to talk about, 3 of which are basically, or 4 of which are basically FF12 moving forward. But there's a lot of older games I think also like exemplify this very well, where like, for instance, I know you haven't really messed with the series yet, but have you heard before of like how kind of divisive Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter is?
No.
So Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter is technically Breath of Fire 5. They didn't use 5 in the title, but it is 5 at this point because they even made a game called 6 for mobile. And that game, I think, is one of the earliest, best examples of like derailing a little bit what people expect a series to be. That we now are very familiar with for like Final Fantasy being a big talking point. Because like Breath of Fire, like the first 2 games, very stock SNES era JRPGs, and 3 and 4 built on those in very direct ways for their PS1 versions. And I think those are the ones that a lot of people cling to as being like the best Breath of Fire games. And then comes on Dragon Quarter on the PS2, where instead of like traditional turn-based combat, characters are standing in a line using your attacks, it's like vaguely a tactics game where you actually move around the field kind of awkwardly and are taking turns that way. And there's all these like kind of experimental mechanics thrown on top of that. The game has like a shorter runtime, but that's because it has multiple endings and you're meant to do like New Game Plus over and over and over and over again, like trying to find your way out. Just an extremely different game in so many different ways, outside of the fact that it's called that it's called Breath of Fire. And the main character's name is Ryu. And even then they kind of take some liberties with it. That one is extremely divisive amongst that fan base. Like a lot of people just do not care about it. I think it's a really great template for like why so many people get divisive about certain games, because it's this argument of like, even if it's might be like good on its own, because it has the weight of what it's coming from, that's influencing where people are feeling about it. Like I think another great example, and this isn't even a series, this is just literally the second game, is Chrono Cross. Right, Chrono Cross is super divisive, and a lot of that has to do with, you know, changes compared to Chrono Trigger, where it's like, hey, Chrono Trigger had this small, kind of intimate cast with, like, you know, just a few really good scenes with them, and then Chrono Cross is like massive cast where some of them are kind of cookie cutterish a little bit, and it's just like you could swap these two characters and nothing would matter. It's like fine. The way it handles certain story elements continuing from Chrono Trigger and how it ties back bothers the hell out of a lot of people. And also just the general like gameplay design of it. You know, there's a lot of interesting, weird ideas mechanically that are just completely different. You know, dual text and triple text still kind of exist, but there's only a small handful of them. There's this whole element system where like spells are now cast per combat per day, kind of, and just a whole lot of like weird, interesting ideas where honestly, I think Chrono Cross is a fantastic game, but so much of the conversation around it gets dominated by the fact that it's not what people wanted from like a Chrono Trigger sequel, and leads to that kind of thing. And I think that's what fuels a lot of other divisive games. Not all of them, but especially like in the Final Fantasy case, when we're talking about like 12, 13, 15, 16, you know, even if you like those ones, you kind of understand where it comes from a little bit, where it's like, how it's different, and people are trying to cling to this idea of like what it should be, you know, quote unquote.
Okay. Let's talk about one that you probably, I don't know, you may kind of expect me to bring this one up, but also it's not one that I think you might have immediately come to mind.
For sure.
Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh.
Because I think it's fair to say Kingdom Hearts 3 is divisive.
Yeah, not like, I don't think it's like the most divisive, but like that, yeah, there's absolutely some like, there's some friction there, yeah.
And, you know, maybe it's just my circle, but I feel like that game is pretty divisive. Like, I have seen people that I personally know after they played Kingdom Hearts 3 being like Kingdom Hearts 3 does not exist to me. Sure. Like, kind of like how I feel about Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and it's just like, and that's just like, you know, I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite, but like, that is just like that's such a like wild mindset to have. You know what I mean? That you dislike something so much that you're just like, oh, it doesn't exist to me. Yeah, it's not real.
Sure.
And I just think that, I mean, I think there's multiple factors that go into why Kingdom Hearts 3 ended up the way it did. Some of it was because of just like what Disney wanted in that game versus what Nomura wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I think that the big fault behind that game is that like it served as kind of like a soft reset to the series, and it was the last game of the Xehanort saga, and they just decided, hey, so we're gonna try and make this like entry level friendly. It's just like, no, don't do that.
Well, it's that, and I think the fact that it suffers also from like the expectation buildup of like how long it took to get there, you know, because like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, not that much time between them, relatively
3
speaking.
years, 3 games, basically.
Like back to back, like moving. And then, you know, we weren't necessarily promised that 3 was going to be in the next like 2-3 years again or anything, but it's like, okay, cool, I finished 2. When am I getting 3? And then, you know, 8 spin-off games later, possibly more than that actually.
It's not like that
it's
much,
finally
358, Birth by Sleep, Coded, Dream Drop.
There's more than that, isn't there?
Oh, I mean, if you're not including the mobile games.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. God, it feels
like
so
point
much
two, because point two of fragmentary passages in the game, like not, you know what I mean?
It's like a prologue. It's like just a bonus. Like, that's fair. That's fair.
Like
it's like a little
fledged games.
It's like a demo. Yeah. It's a demo you paid
games,
for.
But... there were 4 between 2 and 3.
Yeah. So yeah, like that, having that kind of wait time and just these multiple side titles, and then how they kind of tried to wrangle them together because so much plot and lore got added across these different games that they then need to like try to tie up if 3 is going to finish this actual arc. There's a lot of expectation that goes into something like that. And the problem is especially even though there are, that many more games in the franchise total, ultimately in people's heads, it needs to succeed Kingdom Hearts 2. And that is the franchise peak, right? Like, it's like, this is the game following that. There's like 4 other games between, but this is the next main line. This is the next game after 2. And like, I wanted to hit me like 2 did, and it did not.
Nope.
Which is why I guess that's why I hesitate a little bit on being divisive, because like, yes, there is division in terms of like, did you think it was fine or did you hate it? But I don't think there's a lot of people where they're like, oh, Cage 3 is the best one. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that take.
I have. I definitely have.
From like 2 people? What? Like,
no,
I just have never.
From many people.
Bizarre.
I know. Yeah, no, I know many people that's like, oh, Kingdom Hearts 3 is the best one. And I'm just like, no.
Was it the only one they played, or like?
Yeah, no. And like, I have a local friend who I think you may have met. I'm not going to say their name on the podcast.
Yeah, sure.
But like, I'm pretty sure you've met. And Kingdom Hearts 3 is their favorite, and I'm just like, that's, to me, I'm like, that's insanity. Like, it's like, I think I would rather play 2 Birth by Sleep, maybe OG Chain of Memories before I would play Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Like, and because there's honestly a big thing that I don't know if it's as much for other people with their feelings, but like a big part of my issue with it outside of the story is like the combat, and not even that it's easy, it's just it's too floaty. And because like 2 was like it felt very balanced, like it felt grounded when you were on the ground, and it had a good sense of like aerialness when you're in the air. And in this one, it's just like, it's just so, you're so light and you're so like loose, and it's just like,
yeah.
And then like when you do your attacks, they just don't have that weight to them like 2 did.
Yeah.
And then like they just gave Sora like his toolbox was just like too accessible, where like you didn't have to work for like your forms, right? It's just like, oh, you did 2 combos, time to go into this form. And it's like, no, dog, like those forms should mean something. Like I need to be putting in the effort so that I can go into this form. Because like the sense of progression in Kingdom Hearts 2 was like perfect. It was perfect. Where it's just like you get these forms, and as you go through the game, your drive bar will go up. You'll have abilities where your drive will like just, you'll gain more drive, more than than you started out, and it just feels so like in sync, right, with like the progression of the game. And they just like don't, it just doesn't exist in 3. It's just like, nope.
Yeah, it felt in 2, drives felt more like an actual payoff, like a reward for like playing certain ways and for like getting the gauge built off. It felt like using a limit break, right? Like in certain Final Fantasy games, like, oh, it's time that I get to do my one really cool thing, and like you'll actually think about when you want to use it sometimes, or like, whatever. Whereas 3, it's like, it's just kind of rote. It's like, yep, time to just do this again. And the one that really bothered me in 3, actually, I forget the term for it, but all the like roller coaster shit you could do.
The attraction flow.
And like, it just happened. Like, I must have summoned that freaking ghost ship like 7 times a fight.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I don't care. It's just bloating so much of the combat experience. And it's like, I'm going to do it because it's going to wipe everything out, but it's the most boring way of doing so.
Yeah. And I don't like, I think that the idea of the attractions and things like that is very cool, and it adds to the Disney identity and things like that. But it's just so boring. It's just so boring. And I just wish that, like, honestly, the one that I actually liked was the water raft. Because the water raft, you like make a trail, and then when you go,
there's like an actual, there's kind of like, there's some thought that goes into it. It's not it's not just smash the button until damage is done. Like,
yes. But like when they turned off the thing is that they did the updates, right? With like some of them were free, if I remember correctly, and then of course there's the Remind DLC. Like those aspects of the game that came after launch really made me feel like that they sent a message being like, hey, we're hearing your feedback, and hopefully in Kingdom Hearts 4 these things are not a problem again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like, hey, the game isn't going to be as easy as it used to be, and hey, reaction commands, right? The lack of reaction commands, that is the biggest number one issue I have with Kingdom Hearts 3. Reaction commands were the coolest part of Kingdom Hearts 2, and y'all got rid of them. And the thing is that apparently Nomura said that the reason that he got rid of them is that when Kingdom Hearts 2 released, that was a big criticism of the game. And I'm like, where?
From who?
From who? Like in Japan? Because like they're wrong. I don't know what to tell you. Like the reaction commands were so cool, and then they brought them back in the Remind DLC, and that shit was peak. It was peak. And so I just yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a lot of weird stuff about it, like lack of Disney boss fights, like Disney villain boss fights. Like,
yep.
Like,
for how much it leans into Disney, there's not that many Disney boss fights. Yeah.
Like probably my favorite boss fight in the entire game was Davy Jones.
Yeah.
Because it was an actual Disney boss fight.
What?
And it felt like I was in the movie. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, but why was that like the only boss fight in the game that made me feel that way?
Well, because wasn't there something too about how like they wanted to have Elsa as a boss fight, and like Disney was like, no, that's not allowed. Like it needs to be like a villain. Like it has to be a bad guy for you to fight them. Otherwise, no. And which is why Davy Jones is like, you know, fine, cool, great. You can beat him up all day. But Elsa, never.
Yeah. And then like, but even with like the Caribbean, it just did one of those things where they just didn't do enough of the actual Disney story in the story of the game. It's like, y'all should have done more of this. Like, y'all are doing Davy Jones and you're not giving us enough of him type deal. First off, you skipped Dead Man's Chest, which is the best Pirates movie, which sucks. But that's a whole nother thing. But like there are some like other really cool things about it. Like I thought the Toy Story world was great. I loved it. Again, in general, was the game easy? Yeah, but I really loved it, and I loved the transformation for that Keyblade where it turns into like the hammer. I think it's great. Like I like the Keyblade transformations, and like I like those things, but they just happen too frequently. Like it just feels that there's like no real progression in the combat. That I really hope they learn to fix that in that game. And on top of that, I really hope that they fix the environmental interaction stuff, because I felt like that when you try to run up walls, you kind of it wasn't a smooth transition. And on top of that, like when you tried to like hop across things, you kind of had to be very particular about where you were landing on that first thing to jump across. Like just like these very particular things that's just like, oh, this came across as weird, this came across as weird. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3, like to me, I think it's a real mixed bag. And again, I know some people that like, I think most people feel that way, that it's a mixed bag, but I know some people that think like this was absolute garbage, and I know people that like think it's genuinely the best of the series, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I've never encountered that later one. The garbage one I've encountered, and I also think is sometimes an overcorrection. I'm like, okay, look, yes, it is like it's a weaker one, absolutely, but let's also be a little honest with ourselves. But the I've never encountered someone who thought it's like the best one. That's wild to me. It's just like it's like 2 exists. Like I just don't know like where like what are you talking about right now?
I don't know, dog.
That's wild. Which of the many divisive Final Fantasies should we talk about?
I was actually gonna say like let's talk about 8. Okay. Because that's the one that like before 13, that was the one I always knew as like the divisive Final Fantasy.
No, absolutely. I think it's an interesting one because of the fact that, again, like, you know, I think 13, 15, 16, it's very easy to boil down. Not all the rightful complaints, but a lot of it can be boiled down to like, hey, why is Final Fantasy not the thing it used to be. And there's more in depth for each of those. But 8 is interesting because that is like during the prime run, right? Like I think a lot of people, when they talk about Final Fantasy at its peak, you're usually seeing them talk about like 4 through 10. Like that's kind of the sweet spot run for a bit. And 8 is definitely the like the what's the term? Like the black sheep of that group.
See, I think I see 5 more as the black sheep, but like 8 is just like a very divisive title.
I mean, in the sense, I guess in the sense that it is just divisive, yes. Like there's a lot, because there are some people who really do love 8, but there's a lot of people that also just are not into it at all.
Yeah.
5, I think, just doesn't get talked about a lot. I don't think I've seen many people who dislike 5. It's more of 5 just doesn't get the play time as much as a lot of later
that's
ones.
kind of like why I'm saying it's the black sheep.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is mechanical, some of it is plot. I think it's just a game that was doing a lot of different things, especially because, and similar to what I was saying earlier with Chrono Cross, it's the game following Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, sure.
And that leads to its own issues of like, you know, yeah, there's 7 games before this, but 7 is kind of this big deal, especially in the West. And then here's how 8 went. You had a thought or a question?
I was wondering, like, could you, because I genuinely don't know, what's like the general story setup of 8?
Sure. So the main pitch is that at the start of the game, you are a member of this place called Balam Garden, and it's basically war school. You and all the other students are students, but you're also training to become mercenaries. Like that is what the school is for. And you are hired by different governments and stuff to like go do jobs for them. And so like, you know, it's a school setting and like your main home base is a school, and you have like school uniforms, but it's also like, you know, you're going to war magic studies and people have their weapons of choice or like stuff that they're trained in using and that kind of thing.
This sounds sick already. I'm loving it.
And so like, you know, they kind of throw you a little, it's not quite as in media res as like 7 where it's like the bombing mission, but you know, they kind of give you this, like, there's this big opening cutscene that's like how Squall gets his scar because he's doing a little practice session with his rival, Cypher. And then basically the opening pitch is like, hey, like, you know, we're going to introduce you to the concept of like, you're at the school and you're going to go on your first big mission that is kind of like your test for graduation. Like, here is your first big mission, and that's going to make you a full like mercenary.
Seed mercenary, right?
Yeah. And then it just goes from there. And there's a lot of ways that plot builds, mainly in terms of like what certain government agencies are doing, and then it ties in a little bit into some more weirdness. A big heavy point is that there's this reoccurring antagonist, which is like the sorceress, that is initially a Dia, and that goes other places later. It's definitely one of those games where it's like you don't really know the actual full plot of it until pretty far in. You know, it's kind of like the scope keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like initially this is the problem, but now the problem is this, and then this person who you thought was bad is maybe not bad, and like it just kind of keeps growing a bit. So yeah, I think where some of the division comes in on that one, there's a few things. Like mechanically, a thing that comes up a lot is people not really digging the junction system.
Yes, I know that's like the number one thing is the junction stuff.
Because it's one of those things where some people just don't get it. For whatever reason. Not an issue I had personally. But the other thing is that even when you do get it, it's kind of monotonous, and because it rewards. So a big thing is with how junctioning works is that the first step is you equip a summon, and that part I think is cool. Like you get certain abilities based on the summon you're equipped with. You can get some stat bonuses for it, and then you're able, the summons you're equipped with affect what stats you can now do junctioning for. And stat junctioning is where things get silly, because basically the way it works is you take spells that you've gained and you equip those to your stats. And the way spells work is instead of being like, you know, the spell and you cast it and this takes this much MP or whatever, it's really handled more like an item. Like you have 90 fires on you. Good job. So in order to like min-max in the game, a lot of it is just like, yep, I'm just going to grind resources until I have 99 of this spell, and then I'm going to equip it to this stat, and then I'm just going to have cool, good stats. And it also kind of punishes you for using spells sometimes, because it's like, well, I don't want to cast that because, like, that's my stat one. You know, I want to keep that stat high up. And so it's just this. It was this very experimental, interesting idea of treating magic differently from how every game from before it did. Because like even with Materia in 7, like that made it unique how you learned magic and how you equipped it and had your layout. But the act of casting spells in combat was still like the same safe idea of like, yeah, pick it, cast your MP, you're good to go. 8 with this whole junction thing, it just created. It was this thing where it like rewarded you for doing monotonous tasks sometimes, where it's like, I'm just gonna stand here and keep drawing spells from this enemy until I hit the cap limits because I want the best stat boost I can get. And it's one of those things where it's like, yes, that's using the system right, but it's also kind of just monotonous and boring, but you feel like you should do it because you want to get your stats good. Because there's no equipment or anything other than weapons. And weapons even are kind of a simplified thing where it's just like spending materials at a blacksmith to then upgrade it to the next tier. It's not like you're buying a new weapon upgrade every other town or something. Which the weapon material stuff, I will say, is something that's a sticking point of annoyance for me, because a lot of the legendary weapons have like super weird esoteric things that are not signaled at all well in the game, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, to get like this character's ultimate weapon, you need this many of this item. And it's like, well, where's that item? I don't know where I find that item. And the reason you might not know where you find that item is because it's dropped by one specific enemy who hangs out on one specific mountain range on the overworld map. Not like a specific location that you go into, just hang out by these mountains on the overworld map and walk around for a while until you run into this guy. And it's like, why? Why did we do this? Whenever I talk about 8, for me, because like, again, it's a divisive game. There are people who absolutely hate it. There are people who love it. I always describe it as the one that frustrates me the most, because there is a lot that I think 8 does that's really freaking cool. There is some very interesting world building. There are some great concepts. I think there are some very fun experiments where, again, like, I don't like junctioning to stats, but I think equipping summons was a really cool idea, especially because I think it made them feel more unique compared to like, cool, it's a more expensive spell that has a fancy animation. It's like, no, like each summon is equipped to characters, it influences your stats and things, and like it makes you think about, they have more inherent value right off the bat that way. That makes them really cool. But at the same time, some of the mechanics are just not particularly fun in the grand scheme once you get used to them. There's a lot of like exploitable stuff that just kind of kills the mood a lot. And also, like, from a storytelling perspective, oh my god, is this one of those games where I feel like you actually could benefit from a little more exposition? Because there's some stuff where it's like, this just suddenly happens. Like, just like, never mind, like, we're just gonna introduce this concept now. And it's like, what could there have been like any amount of foreshadowing or like better introduction of this concept? Like, okay, cool, this is what we're doing now. And it just gets really bizarre at sometimes. There's a couple like Deus Ex Machina moments that I'm just like, why is that the solution to this problem? Like, I don't want to get into like in-depth spoilers, but there's just some things that happen in the later game where I'm like, I really hate that this is how things are solved. And so yeah, like it's a game where, I like it. I think there are some really cool concepts to it. There's some stuff it does excellent. I mean, I think the soundtrack on it is great. Laguna's combat theme is some peak shit. Triple Triad is a classic. I feel like that's the thing that people have the most fond memories of out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is absolutely a game that I think took some bigger swings on trying to do things a little bit different, story-wise and mechanically, and it either clicks with you or it doesn't. I think one thing too, especially for how old I was when it came out, I think a big thing that really influenced how into it some people were, everyone who I knew that like loved 8, that like really loved 8, was super into romance, because romance is a very central part of like the main plot progression. Squall meeting Renoa and like how their relationship forms, and then there's kind of this thematic thing of how it's kind of like a carrying on of their parents, which is the whole thing. And like me personally, I was like, cool, when can we get back to like the weird space war stuff? Like, what's going on with that? But I know other people who like absolutely ate up that aspect of the game, and like that's part of the reason why it is like stuck with them so much. And I don't think I'm like anti-romance games, because like it didn't bother me in like 10, for instance. But something about the way 8 did it, I don't know, it just felt like more soap opera-y to me at times.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of had a weird feel in the mouth to me. It's an interesting divisive game, because like, again, it's doing a lot of things still traditional. It just took some more risks within that paradigm, and not all of it worked for everybody.
Yeah, let's talk about 13. Let's do it.
Yeah,
we knew it was coming.
Well, so here's the problem, Cam. We're saying divisive. That's just universally disliked.
No, it's not.
More so than 8.
Not.
It is divisive though. There are people who love it. I mean, not just you. I've met plenty of people that really do love it, and I'm even at the camp where like I think it's overhated. Like I don't hate it. The way some folks do.
We've talked about this a little bit. We've talked about this a little bit. Yeah, like I just like from go, I was just like, I really like this game. I first off, I still think to this day, it probably is like from a presentation standpoint, is probably like the best JRPG from a presentation standpoint. Like obviously, like Persona 5 has great aesthetic and like things like that, but like just in the sense of like the music and the cinematography and like all of that stuff, it's just like, it's so good.
Yeah. And that aspect has aged incredibly well. Like the times that I've gone back to 13 to like give it another try, like, okay, the UI is a little oversized and ugly because it was designed for like, 1080p, 720, whatever. But the like actual like cinematics in game, and as you're saying, like their style of cinematography and the music, a lot of that excellent. I still have my issues with it, but I will agree with you that like, the presentation side, like the visual direction of that game, and the accompanying music is wonderful, and it's aged very well. Like I feel like if you had someone play 13 without any other context other than like, oh yeah, this one's divisive, they would be surprised at when it released. Like it feels like a game that released later.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna go as far to say as I feel this about every Final Fantasy, but like, again, since playing Trails, I have been spoiled. and in general, like, I just feel that a lot of my Final Fantasy experiences, while I still genuinely like the stories and characters and stuff like that, I think that some of the world building normally takes a bit of a back seat. And I wish that Final Fantasy did more in that regards moving forward. I
mean, they are doing it in a single game versus what are we at for Trails?
But like just like in one game though, just like in one game of Trails, I'm just like, I feel like I've learned so much, like that type of thing where again, not every Final Fantasy is like that, like but I just feel like that is something that I want more from Final Fantasy. And I think that a big thing that people critique about 13 is that like a lot of the story is like in the menus, right? And you have to like read through stuff like that. And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
To be clear, I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's that combined with, I think there's a lot of like proper noun overload. Like they just throw a lot of terms at you very quickly without a lot of time to actually get acquainted with what they mean. And it's like, I think the first time I played it, it took me forever to realize Cocoon was literally the world. I was like, we keep talking about this Cocoon thing. I don't know what the Cocoon is. Oh, it's just, that's the name of the planet. Okay, cool. And then we got the LC and the Fall C, and I think there was another C in there somewhere. It's just like, there's a lot of stuff they throw at you in media res in a way that I think is like, there's so many proper terminologies, and it does not take, I think, a good breath where, again, it like you're saying, it's in the menus. Like there's a lot of stuff where like, if you sit down and catch up on your reading, a lot of it makes much more sense and like it hits better. Yeah. But if you're just like if you're just locked into the action and you're just trying to get through the game, there's a lot of stuff you're like, I don't know why this just happened or who this guy was. Was I supposed to know him? Like,
yeah, and I just think that man, I think I don't.
You're having one of those thoughts.
I might say something really crazy right now. I think, like, as a complete cast, I think 13 might be the best.
Let's say your favorite. I don't know if we're gonna say the best. It's your favorite.
Because here's the thing. Like, here's the thing that I like about 13's cast. And here's the thing. Like, Tifa's my number one girl. Cloud's my number one protagonist. You know, that might be basic, but that's just how it is. At least until I play, like, 6, maybe that'll change. What have you. Like, I love Final Fantasy VII. Like, I love that cast so much. But I think that in 7, there's definitely, like, these kind of, like, pauses with certain characters and their, like, character development, their stories, things like that, and then they have, like, a chapter that focuses specifically on that. And Trails does that, but Trails does it in a different way that I think, like, fits that kind of structure. In 13, I feel like that there's something always going on with these characters. Like, I feel like that there's always something I'm kind of learning about either their personality or their opinion on something, or, like, that really, like, makes and like, they're written in such a humanistic way, right?
Sure.
In a relatable way consistently throughout this game, that I just think is just so good, because, like, all of these characters are flawed. All of these all of these characters are properly messy. They're not, like, these characters that they just feel like real people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, and I'm not saying that, like, Final Fantasy VII doesn't do that, but I think that there's, like, a groundedness to 13 and how they handle their characters that make it feel just a little bit more real to me, and not like this kind of it kind of, like, makes me it makes me kind of have to remind myself, oh, I'm playing a video game right now. I'm not these aren't real characters, or real people, even though they kind of feel like that they are.
Sure.
Like, people criticize Lightning because she's basically, oh, you're female Cloud, right? Like, but she is this character that is really struggling with things, and, like, loses, like, her sister, and it's, like, struggling with that, and her relationship with Snow, and her relationship with herself. Like, it may not be like this, quote unquote main character energy that you kind of expect from a JRPG main character, but there are things going on with her that I, like, really like and appreciate, and how she has, like, this kind of growth when she's, like, has her section where she's with Hope, and trying to, like, console him, and then, like, Zaz is this really, like, relatable goofy
why are we
guy.
doing any of this?
yeah you're like what are we doing, like, you know what I mean? He's basically what us represented, but then you also learn that he's a dad, and he's looking for his son, and he's like, he'll do anything that he, like, has to do to be able to achieve that goal, and, like, that's really inspiring. But he's the level-headed person of the group. There's just, like, there's just such a richness to these characters that I just don't think other Final Fantasies, at least that I've played, have gotten to that level. Again,
sure,
could play 6, change my mind. Could play 9, change my mind.
I mean, a large part of this is because I think one of the unique things about 13 is that, while it does have certain stock Final Fantasy plot tropes, got to go kill God at some point.
Yep.
It is a game that, more than any other Final Fantasy, is a character drama. Kind of as you're saying, like, Lightning is kind of the main character, but almost by default. It's not really like her screen time isn't really that significantly more than anyone else. And really, the first, like, I want to say almost 2/3 of the game, you don't even have a full party because you're constantly jumping between different
Yeah.
kind of offshoots and pairs and getting time where it's like, you almost get like remixes where it's like, okay, we're going to have all these characters be stuck together for a bit and then they're all going to come together and then get mixed up and then separate again. And now we're going to see how like this relationship develops and how this relationship develops. And there's a lot of interpersonal drama that you're getting right away, right?
I love all of it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think some people just do not care. I think that's a big part of why 13 is very hit and miss with some folks is because it's like cool. There's interpersonal drama and these characters have their issues, but also can we just get on with what the actual world-ending like situation might be? Like, yeah, I get it. Like, Hope is mad at Snow, but like, can we just deal with like the end of the world that's coming? And it's just a very different approach that I think doesn't work for a lot of people. And I'll tell you right now, like I do think in terms of that being a focus, I don't think any other Final Fantasy is going to win out for you in that regard. Like even 6 has a little bit of that, but like ultimately out of that cast, I want to say it's maybe like 5 or 6 of them that have any degree of like actual meaty plot. And even then it's going to be like spotlight moments here and there. It's not going to be the way that 13 is constructed, where again, a ton of action in 13 is like the actual story isn't really moving forward a whole lot because we're going to spend time jumping between these different characters, splitting off and just trying to like so much of the opening of that game is just like, hey, the characters are trying to get somewhere and like eventually end up back together. And not really anything happens in a plot sense, but a lot happens in a character development sense during those long breaches. And if you enjoy that, awesome. I think a lot of people just did not.
Yeah, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah. I think part of it too, and I know you're going to disagree on this.
Yeah.
And some of this is also like, good characters versus likable characters. It's not the same thing. There are absolutely people that you can like, think are awful, but like is a well done character and you enjoy them. I think 13's cast is rough for a lot of people. Like yeah, it's tough. Like outside of Saz, it's hard for me to really be like I like this character for anyone else. No, that's not true. Fang's pretty cool too, but she also joins.
I don't have to like characters to think that they're interesting or
no, for sure. But I also like don't honestly find them that interesting either. If I'm being honest, like I just don't think like a lot of it is the interpersonal drama, but a lot of it also just kind of feels like time wasted to me, honestly.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But and again, like I love the combat system. And one of the things I remember being a really big criticism as well with 13 is that it felt too tutorially.
Always.
And I do think that it the onboarding in general like does take a while, like longer than it should for sure. But I'm like Persona has tutorials so far into the game. Like, what do we talk? Like, and we all praise that game. Like, but that's not an issue. Like, I don't know.
It is like hour 40 that you get the last tutorial pop up or something in 13. It's pretty deep in.
Yeah, I know, and you'll get it, but you'll get it in like hour 60 in Persona sometimes. Like,
yeah, but Persona feels like it's because they're actually introducing like a new mechanic that deep into the game. That's like an interesting new thing. 13, it feels like I just got past how to finally level up my characters like in more interesting ways. Like it feels like it gates so much core mechanic content so late into it.
I don't know if I agree with that. I would have to replay the game, but I just think that like. Some, not all, but like I think that some of the criticisms of 13 are just like overblown.
Sure.
And you said it too, like you think that it's overhated or yeah, overall I think that game's so damn good. I think that game is so damn good. And I really like all the characters. And I just love how they're messy. They're messy.
Yeah.
And they fight. And
how much you like interpersonal drama really heavily impacts liking this game or not. And it's not a thing I personally care for. Like, I think if you like reality shows, you'll like 13 more.
And see, like the things that 13 does really well, I wish like more JRPGs did in general. Like there, I just feel like that. I get to when I obviously I'm interested in the story, but like I want to see like the character interactions. I want to see the character development. And that's like what Trails does so damn well in its own way. Um, that yeah, I wish we got more of that, and we do in certain, like, executed in different ways. Like in 15, I think 15 does a really good job at that too. And I know that you're not a big fan of 15, and like obviously we could go on forever about
Oh yeah,
how 15 ended up the way it is, but I like loved my time with 15. I loved exploring that world. I liked the combat a lot. Um, there's certain things that, like, even though like some of the characters were like hit and miss, like, Gladio's just a guy with a big sword, more or less.
bros.
Yeah, bros. But like just a sense of like, I think that just like the sense of just being with those characters for so long, and then when you finish that game and it just like the game reflects on that, right?
Sure.
Like that's like the idea of that game, that like when you beat that game, dude, like that's one of the few games that I cried at the end of that game. I just like teared up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say I like 15 more than 13 for what that's worth.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's tough.
And like,
no,
15,
I do like 13 more.
And 15, I have my issues with. Like, and I'm also rating it a lot based on like having replayed it once we got like the final version of it, or at least the final one that released. And God, a lot of my issues with that game are like, it's so weird to say this because I feel the opposite in other games, but if 13 was too many hallways, 15 needed more. Because I feel like 15 was always operating at its absolute best when I was engaging with like the main story development, and then it was time to drive in my car around a giant circle for like 4 hours to finish some side quests of delivering vegetables to a farm, and it just wasn't interesting. Like the side quests in that game were so weak, like
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but it was just vibes, dude. It was just vibes. And they were good vibes.
Were they? I don't think they were good.
I think they were, dude. I think they were.
And I'm also bothered by 15 in that I think 15 actually has some of the coolest like world lore concepts that do not exist inside of 15. It's like a lot of stuff that exists in supplementary material where they're like, oh, here's all this cool backstory stuff that's really relevant to the story of 15. We're never going to bring it up in 15, by the way. Like, we're not going to explain like the divine right of kings shit. That's like such a cool concept, and I think really does a great job of explaining why like Noctis's burden of needing to become the king is like this important big deal. And like, but no, we're just gonna like, so much stuff happens off screen in that game, and it's so frustrating. Like the number of major characters that basically die off screen is like cool. That was a great sign off for them, I guess. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, and like it's funny how like Arden is like low key like one of the best Final Fantasy villains.
Yeah, and is underutilized within the game. Like, there was so much additional plot they wanted to do, and like there's the novel adaptation, which I think is meant to be like where the story was going to end up if they finished like 7 more DLCs, which it goes some wild different places. Like the whole final boss fight is different. The novel version has a different final antagonist than Arden, and it's almost like Arden and them bury the hatchet and like decide that they now share common goals. Basically, it's a whole like completely different take, and I do wonder what it would have been like had we gotten that version. But 15 is such a bizarre, as you said, we could go on forever about it. I mean, especially how it started as Versus 13 and then got completely reworked, and like what's left over from that, and what such a bizarre piece of JRPG history.
Yep. Yeah. That I'm sad now thinking about Versus 13 again. But yeah, and then 16's interesting because like I think 16 came out and it was like, it really had like no issues, right? It felt like it was like the first Final Fantasy since 12, maybe 10. I don't know like much about the development history of 12, but like that it just like it came out, it was done.
Yeah, it was on time. It was
on time. Like it didn't have any real major behind the scenes issues. but I also feel like that it missed the mark in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I know some people that absolutely love 16. I know some people that I know someone that said that it's their second favorite Final Fantasy, which I think is
Wild.
just yeah. No, I can
Wild.
tell you who it is.
Hey,
it was
like,
no John that's been on the podcast, John Phipps.
yeah.
That's his fate after Final Fantasy 6, which is like, that's his Kingdom Hearts 2.
And that's even more wild to me that like he has the taste for 6 at the top, and then somehow that leads to
Yeah.
And I know where I come from on some of my stances about 16, because there's stuff I love about 16.
Yeah, because I think you're colder on 16 than I am.
Yes.
But I also am not
I think
super high on it.
I also think a lot of it is honestly just that I'm more negative on the combat than you are. I think storyline wise we're about on similar paces, but I have a lot of issues with the combat in 16, and I think we talked about it once, and you were just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man, I had fun.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think my main thing was just, and I'm sure I've talked about it in the podcast before, but I think that my biggest criticism, more so just like a lack of opportunity, was the kind of lore feature that they introduced in this game, where when you're in a scene and they're talking about when you're in a scene, you hold the touchpad on PS5 and it would show you all the key players in the scene,
right,
and it would tell you about them and things like that. But it really was just it was just information that it was just general information. It didn't really, they didn't do a really good job at making me care about Benedicta and Benedicta and the Titan dude and all of these different houses. It just felt hollow.
You wanted because it was basically summaries of stuff that you were already learning through the action. They were more reminders than they were new additional lore.
Yeah,
it's tell me about Benedicta's backstory. What's why is she the way she is or something?
Yes,
give me some meat like that. And it wasn't. It was summaries of stuff that you're seeing in action already. Some of the world history stuff was some extra context, but especially for characters, it was mostly sum ups of what you've already been seeing happen.
I get
that.
And I think that Benedicta was probably the most interesting character in the game.
Painfully underused. Oh god,
and
so angry at that.
She's one of the first people gone. Spoilers. But for example, and I think, to be clear, I think all the performances in this game are great. No shade to any of the actors playing these characters or anything like that.
No, voice acting incredible.
But I could not tell you a single fact about Jill.
Sure.
I don't know any
a lot of the writing failed Jill.
Yeah, I was I could not tell you anything about Jill outside of, she has Shiva, and that's it. I can't tell you anything about the Titan guy outside of, I don't even know his name off the top of my head. Hugo. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just feel that it just really didn't do much with those characters, and a lot of it had to do with the lack of world building. Really the only thing that I remember is that if you had one of those marks, you were basically seen as a slave, or that was the mark of a slave. That is all I know about that world. You know what I mean?
No, it shares a similar issue with 15, where there's so much storytelling that is handled in the moment, and you're not given a lot of there's not enough cutaways oftentimes to other characters, or to really fleshing them out more in more interesting ways. I think especially in the last quarter, it really there's a major plot moment where everything after that just feels really kind of rushed in some awkward ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of time that could be better spent on fleshing out a lot of cast. A large part of that for me too is that, for a game that emphasized right away that it wasn't going to have parties and that it's really a single character action game, there's a whole lot of moments where you basically have a party and they just hang out with you, but don't actually contribute a whole lot other than they're with you for plot reasons. Yeah. It's it kind of feels like we could have actually had parties in this game, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and obviously Sid was cool, right? Too.
Oh yeah.
But also by the time that spoilers, by the time Sid like, you know,
isn't around anymore.
Like, I felt like I was satisfied with that because he was just he was always like present, and he was always like,
sure.
I felt like the vibes, and like I had a feeling that something was going to happen to him anyway. I was like, oh, he's probably going to go. But like, you know, these more antagonistic characters, I'm like, why should I care about these characters? Like, they just don't feel. I just feel no real attachment to them in any way, both whether it be positive or negative. Again, like I saw like the potential of Benedicta, but again, just like underutilized.
Yeah, I think Benedicta and like, dude, I get a little more from Hugo than I think you did. I can't remember his name right now, but Odin guy, he was so like last second.
He was so cool, and then like
design wise, yeah, but like in terms of like getting a better sense of his motivations and
the actor who did his performance was really good.
Oh like, yeah, again, performances in general, this game knocked out of the park. Like that's my biggest praise.
He was a standout for me. I was just like, this guy is evil. You know what I mean? This guy's crazy. But like, yeah, I just didn't know. He kind of just shows up and he's like, and I'm here too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Barnabas, there we go. I couldn't remember his name. Freaking, and that's what. See, I remembered the other names, and I couldn't remember that dude's name. Yeah, and 16 frustrates me because I think I was so much more like vibing with the story during the opening bits, and then once the cracks began to show, it was like, no. Like, you know, it's like I was so high on it for like the first half of the game, and then you know somewhere during like the final act, I was just like, I don't think I like this as much as I wanted to.
Yeah, and then like when you get to the end of the game with the villain at the end of the game, I'm just like, even like I don't know for certain at the time, but I'm pretty sure at the time I'm like, why is this person the final boss? Like, why is this person the bad guy? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like it does make sense, but it also feels very left field in a couple different ways, and like thematically there's some like fun ideas with like that being the final boss, but it also just like it, you know, a large part of it I think is because of the fact that like 16 does start off feeling so much more grounded storyline wise. It's much more a political drama at the start, and there are still aspects of like political concepts in the final boss, but it just doesn't really feel quite right after everything else. Like it just feels like such a tone shift once that became the antagonist that it's like, cool, this is where we're going now. All right.
Yeah. What are a few other divisive you know what, I'm gonna bring it up. Let's talk about Nier.
Okay, I mean, which Nier is divisive?
I don't think. Here's the thing.
So wait, are you okay? So not divisive, but which one do you not like? Is what you were about to say? Like,
I don't think that. I think. I guess Nier isn't divisive. I guess it's not.
But it's like, not. I'm sorry, buddy.
You don't think? So I'm just the only person that doesn't like Nier, or
no?
Like,
you're not the only. It's just not like it's not a large enough. Like it's not like a headbutting of two groups that are roughly similar in size. There are people who hate it. Absolutely, there's people who hate any game. Like I can find someone who hates a thing.
I don't hate Nier. I just think that
it's overpraised.
Yes, I think it's overpraised.
Yeah,
and I think it does some cool things, but there's equal enough bad things.
I do respect that you like Replicant more. I will say that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's not a common take. There's a lot of people that prefer Automata, and yeah, I respect that you have that take because I agree.
Yeah,
I think Automata does do some better things in terms of player engagement because at least for that one, the multiple endings gives you some new gameplay. Whereas Replicant's just like, hey, did you like that last half of the game? Because you're about to do it 3 more times. But yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. What? We're not going to talk about Xenoblade 2 because we talk about Xenoblade 2 enough. I feel like
that's
on
fair.
This podcast.
That's fair.
Everyone knows it's divisive. If you don't,
that's our talk of it. We're touching on it. Yes, Xenoblade 2 is divisive, and we've given our opinions on it frequently.
Yeah, and I think I am curious. What I'll say is, once Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition comes out and we both replay it, we'll properly revisit the discussion on Xenoblade 2. because I'm curious if that if some performance upgrades, things like
Sure.
that may
Yeah, I
shift
don't
your
think that
opinion
was
a little bit.
maybe. I mean, performance really wasn't my issues with 2. I mean, I'll mention there's performance issues, but I mostly dealt with them fine. It's fine to have a little 300p gameplay every now and then.
What I will say is I think there definitely there's like a solid part in the game where like I where I was just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing in this game right now? It's like when you're in like the Snow Kingdom or whatever, where I was just like, what's going on? Like, what does this have to do with anything right now?
Right.
There are, but like, yeah, in general, like Xenoblade 2 fucking rocks. Like that, yeah. The end of that game is like.
I did have a thought earlier where like this doesn't perfectly encapsulate, but I think this is one of the best examples to like just shorthand give like the feelings on Xenoblade 2 is the old before and after Etika clip where like he sees the reveal of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and he's like, this is an affront to the original game. What have they done to it? Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's just going off. And then you like cut to him finishing 2 and he's like, this is the most beautiful human thing I have ever seen in my life. And like, I did not have that same amount of reaction to it positively by the end. But I do think that's a very good like expression of the extremes of it, where it's just like, there's just stuff in this game that's going to immediately turn some people off and you're just not going to win you over. It's not going to be able to. And there's other people where they do the full buy-in and it's cinema, like it's one of those it's a very divisive game. I agree.
Similar to FF15, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is one of the few games that I've like I cried at the end of that game. I was just like I Etika was saying I was the same way. I was just like that was absolutely beautiful. Like what a beautiful ending to that game. And yeah, just thinking about it now gets me emotional, dude. It's so good. It's just admittedly some weird stuff around that game, but
yeah, in
general, God, it's so good.
I have a random one I want to bring up real quick. It's not going to be a long one, and especially because like it's one you haven't played, so it's like it's hard for us to like go in depth. But I do think it's an interesting one to bring up. So, Star Ocean, you've only played. Did you start 2? I don't even remember. Did you get through any of them?
Nope.
Okay, so Star Ocean, which we're now at 6 games, correct? Right? 6?
5.
6.
No, 6.
Yeah, 6. So Star Ocean 3.
Till the end of time.
Till the end of time. That is a divisive one amongst fandom for some very fun special reasons. I won't get into in-depth spoilers, but what I will say is that narratively, it introduces a plot twist that retroactively influences how you kind of view the stories of like the games before it and also the games that come after. Ooh. And it's a plot twist that they like don't really dwell on the later games either. I think they decided like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best move. Because that plot twist happens and there are so many people who absolutely hate it. It's just like a way to retroactively make me angrier at games I liked. Like now that this is in my head of like, this is the story, like what the hell? Yeah, just I remember that being a big one at the time where, overall like solid game. I know people who will absolutely love it for its crafting mechanics and like it has some interesting mix-ups in the combat that some people really like. Solid cast for its time. But the narrative was like fine up to a point, and then there's just this one big moment, and a lot of people went, I don't like that.
Dang, I really want to get to those games soon. We'll end it on this because it is also like super late, and we both need to go to bed. I want to talk about the Cold Steel Arc of Trails.
For sure. I have no input, so have at it.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Cold Steel Arc of Trails. So I feel like, at least among all of my Trails friends, I feel like I'm like the Cold Steel hater.
Sure.
And to be clear, I think all these games are at minimum great.
Yeah, it's like 8 and above. There is no lower.
Yeah.
8.5 and above. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. But I think that it does a lot of like weird things for me. Um, Especially following the first two arcs. So this is the first arc where Kondo is no longer the director of the series. This is where he's just more of like a oversight executive producer, like that type of thing. He's not like the director. And I think you can really feel that once you get to Cold Steel. And I want to give it its credit. Like, I think that Cold Steel is a very ambitious arc. It's definitely the most ambitious arc of the series because there's like so many different characters, and you have to like, they only have, even though these games are also probably the longest of the series, like, especially once you get to like Cold Steel 3 and 4, uh, you only have so much time to get with all these characters. And I'm not even like, I'm not trying to stem on this for too long, but like I definitely think that Reen is like easily the weakest protagonist of the series, and which is just funny because he's one of the most popular characters in the series, and part of that is because he like a lot of people jumped on the Trails train with Cold Steel.
I will say, as an outsider, just from what I've seen, Reen kind of feels like he has the most I am the JRPG protagonist energy. If that makes sense. Like, he's very default hero.
Yes.
Like, not full-blown Gary Stu, but like he's flirting with that line a little,
Yeah, no, he is the JRPG hero that is oblivious that all the girls like him.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Yeah. And I think that, and that's like part of the reason why I want to talk about Cold Steel, is that like I think it's divisive to a certain extent in the lens of like there are a lot of people that started with Trails, and so like that was like their intro to Trails, and so they love Cold Steel.
Sure.
Right.
I feel like that was the one that started getting the most momentum in the West, really.
Yes, it did. Yeah. But even just worldwide, like Reen is like one of the series favorites for sure. And one of the big criticisms that Cold Steel and Reen defenders really hate is when, and this is how I feel, to be clear, is that like I think that he keeps on learning the same lesson over and over again as the series goes on, and people's like defense of that is that like that he's like, oh, he's human, he's gonna like
make mistakes and
forget these things and then have to be reminded. And I'm like, if that's all this guy is doing throughout 4 games,
and like,
I am going to take issue with that.
No, I agree, because like, look, conceptually, that kind of idea, I understand that argument, and I think it's a great argument to make when you have a character that is going through the same trial and tribulation 20 years later in their life. I don't think it makes sense when it's like, bro has done this 5 times in the last year.
Like, yeah, it's not like that short of a span, but like, still, I get what you're saying. And I think that, and I'm not saying that that's all Reen's character is, but it's more like that he very much is, again, he gives very much like what you said, the example, JRPG main protagonist energy, where he has like, oh, he has this like special power that no one else has, and like he gets like a very special thing at the end of the first game, and it's like, it's so like main character energy, it's heavy.
Sword Art Online Kirito, like, cool.
Yeah, and,
great, buddy.
No, and also on top of that, like they really go a different direction with the series. Like the way that Cold Steel ends, like I've said before, I hate it because it's sudden, it's abrupt, and it just ends with no answers in a way that's just not satisfying. Like I can get a cliffhanger and be like, oh, like I cannot wait, I'm super excited, like this is, I love how they ended this. But this was just like, whoa, you have like thrown such a curveball pitch at me, in a way that like, this being my 6th game in the series, I had no potential idea of what this thing is, and then like you have to wait for the next game. Like if I had to wait between Cold Steel 1 and 2, I would have been furious. I would have been furious. And so like, and the whole like concept of what that thing is throughout that arc, I really wasn't a huge fan of it. Like I didn't dislike it, but I was just like, oh, okay, like that's kind of weird. Like I don't know why we're doing this, and it's really hard to say without going into spoilers, because it's definitely a surprise. But it just really didn't sit right with me. And like as I was going along in Cold Steel, it just really didn't. I never fully was on board with it, and I just kind of had to accept it for what it was. Because it just felt so left field. Like, but it was like the one time in the entire series where they pitched something to me, and I was just like, "What? No, I don't. No, I don't think I like that." Sure. And it's just like, well, too bad, because this is the main focus for the rest of the arc, and you just kind of had to deal with it. And I just think that I'm just really curious once you start Trails, but once you get to that arc specifically, how you're going to feel about it. Because like I know that Slam, friend of the show, from Level Up Legacy, he's playing through Cold Steel right now, and he's loving like Cold Steel 1 and 2. And again, like I think that those are two of like the weakest games in the series.
There's something here that tracks with him also liking Persona 5 the most. There's a connection here. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that one, yeah, this one definitely this arc has the most influence from Persona, definitely. That being said, there are some really great characters that I love in this series, and like, and there are some characters that I like was really looking forward to seeing where they were going. And then because from 2 to 3 there's a time jump. And it's very clear that when they decided to do that time jump, there are certain characters they didn't really know what to do with. Because again, they had so many characters, they could only do so much. They were like, oh, we're just going to have this character do this and then have this character do that. Some of it was cool, and some of it was just like, it wasn't like oh, this makes sense, but it's like, okay, I can roll with this. And then there were other ones where it's just like, why is this happening? Like, this doesn't feel right. And like, this character still has some growing to do for sure, and it just like never really panned out in a real way, at least in a way that I was satisfied.
Because Cold Steel has like the largest original cast, right? I feel like I've seen the cast list, easily. And it's like way more characters than any other one. Yeah,
it's like probably 35 plus characters
across all 4, not just like right up front in 1, right?
Across all 4.
Okay. Because there's like a time skip between 2 and 3, right? And there's like kind of a light reset with 3, I think, or something.
It's not a light reset, it's just there's a time skip. So like the first 2 games, Reen is a student at Thor's, and then the last 2 games he is an instructor at Thor's. And so he's still like basically a kid throughout. He's like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old by the time it gets to Cold Steel 3. And so, yeah, again, still really good games. I just think that they did some really weird narrative choices throughout that arc. Cold Steel 4 especially is properly divisive. Like there's a specific like revelation that happens regarding just like the whole world in that game that people in the Trails community, you either like are either cool with it or just like think it's terrible, like don't like it. And so yeah, because you're asking about the character thing in Cold Steel, like your class is called Class 7. Because basically Thor's military academy, there's like different classes. There's a couple of classes that are like specifically noble families, in classes, and then there's like ones that are specifically commoners, and then class 7 is supposed to be like a mixture of the two. So like they're a blend of like notable people, or notable talents
Mm-hmm.
from noble and commoner houses. So like there's a kid named Elliot who's a musician, but his dad is like the general of the military, right? And then there's like Laura, who is a part of the Arced school of swordsmanship. Like there's different like swordsmanship schools, and she's like the Arced school. And then there's Alyssa, who is the daughter of the CEO of the Reinford company, which basically makes a bunch of like technology and stuff like that. So there's just like a wide variety of like different backgrounds. That's really cool. And then like, one of your teachers was like, your teacher is like has a specific history as well. Like everyone has like detailed histories. It's so good. Um, and so like in the first two games, like, overall cast, I would say like sits between 15 to 20. And then like, 10 to 15 more get added once you get to Cold Seal 3 and 4 of like new characters. Obviously there are characters that are from previous entries as well. But yeah, uh, I still love the Cold Seal arc. I would easily replay through all those games with little to no issue. But I do think that when it comes to the Trail series at large, it is like notably the weakest. Even though Cold Steel 3, I think, is one of the better or best Trails games overall. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Did you have any? Did you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we about covered it. I'm ready for Mimi's and the DMV, so.
Yeah, no, I get you. I got to wake up in like 6 hours. So, all right, everybody, you can follow me on socials at Cam Final Mix, and you can follow Kevin on socials at Kevin Kenson. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, we'll catch you later.
Later.